So if you'd like to make comments at that point in time, you're more than welcome to. I do encourage you, because this won't be our first work session by any means. We'll probably have several work sessions. If there is any information that you would like heard ahead of time, you can definitely, or at least seen before the trustees, you're more than welcome to email the trustees, and then more so email Gloria, who is the town clerk, and she'll make sure that those get into the record ahead of time. Okay? Sound good? So first off, we'll start off with item B until Fire Chief gets here. His presentation, Community Development, Planning and Zoning Preservation. This is changes to Historic Preservation, Chapter 18.33 in specific. And I would pull that up on the computer, which I fully intended to, but as you can see, my Wi-Fi is not wanting to connect right now. So if it decides to, then I'll get it on here. Eddie, I'll kick it off to you, sir.
Reason why I like to discuss this is just to kind of, before I start, I kind of give you a little bit of overview of what is about this proposal is this historic preservation section was basically to preserve our community, our historic sites and our structures. And this amendment, what this does is referring to a state statute that gives the municipality a little bit more leverage when it comes to dealing with a state agency coming into our community and doing projects on state buildings. The reason why this is coming about is because of the museum that's being put together, or it's being worked on to operate pretty soon. And there was a lot of questions. I was getting a lot of phone calls. I was getting a lot of questions as far as what are they doing. And it was embarrassing to say the least, because I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on. I don't know why those trucks were there, or what are they doing. So what this does is, what I'm requesting is that we adopt section 6. There's 5 sections of state statute 3-22-1 through 5. And that's listed in our ordinance, adopting that section of state statute. And when I had a meeting, or whenever we had a meeting with the state cultural affairs, whenever they came down, Cabinet Secretary Garcia de Guerrero specifically brought up this section 6 that she noted that the town of Mesilla did not adopt. And she actually recommended that we adopt this section so that the municipalities has a little bit more involvement in any kind of changes or any kind of work that's being done here within our municipality on state buildings. So again, this is just adopting, instead of sections 1 through 5, it will be sections 1 through 6. I'm not exactly sure if this was included in your packet, but what is, again, in summary.
Yeah, these guys weren't
No, we
included
don't
in the
have
packet because I was gonna pull it up
Okay, I
on
can
the
screen.
screen.
So basically what it is New Mexico State Statutes, Chapter 3 municipalities, and in relation with historic site districts and landmarks. Applicability to construction or renovation of state buildings limitations. And again, what it's proposing is that the state agencies has to communicate what is being done in our historic districts and state buildings. And again, I'm looking to adopt, hopefully, to propose to adopt this last section to approve the historic preservation. I apologize, I don't have any copies for you, but I can go get them if you like.
It's not needed. It was gonna be pulled up on the screen, and that was my intention, because this is for discussion purposes only. And just for you to give the information. The other ordinance stuff is in the packet for us to fully review.
So yeah, I think it's a pretty basic change. If you look at our municipal code, under section 18.33.030, it says authority, the designation of towns, historic zones is made pursuant to Historic District and Landmarks Act, sections 3-22-1 to 3-22-5. And then if there's just a scratch out, instead of -5, it would be -6. To just, again, adopt the last section of that state statute.
And Eddie, did you hear this in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting as well?
Correct, yes, we actually did today we had it was listed on an action item, and it was voted, and it was voted unanimously approved by the commission.
Was there any questions or discussion amongst the commission regarding this?
I think it was pretty self-explanatory. We did have a discussion before it was listed as an action item, the meeting before, and that there was a discussion there. And all commissioners seem to be in approval of adopting this.
And this was a recommendation by the state as well.
Correct.
Was it also in clarification for the CLG, right? Certification. Okay. Commissioners, questions?
Yes, what code is this again, Eddie, since?
Our code is 1833.030, 18.33.030.
Under authority?
Correct.
So we already have 1 through 5. I just pulled it up on my phone so I could see it and see what you're talking about.
And again, this allows, it requires the state to inform us and communicate and hopefully build a better relationship between, after that meeting and throughout this whole time. We have been having a great relationship with them, and I think we're both on the same page when it comes to this.
Okay, right.
Just wondering, what kind of timeline are you looking to bring this forward and get it, I guess, before the board?
Well, the commission already voted on today
Mhm.
as a approval to amend. So the next,
So the technical process
It's gonna
between
be
this
at the
is
hearing.
for us, so we have our work session here to answer questions, provide direction to staff as it may be needed from the elected board here. That way staff can move forward with that. Then we would post in the applicable form of a public hearing and having that information available. So the public can do that, have it posted in our regular areas as well as in the paper. And do that, and then gather that public input if there is any public input. And then not that meeting that we hold the public hearing, but the following meeting, have any changes that would be necessary or further direction by the board, reviewed by legal at that point in time, and then brought to the board for a vote at that point in time for codification and for adoption and codification, if that makes sense. So that would be the time frame. So we're looking, with direction today as well as other information, we're looking at probably sometime in August to potentially have ordinance codified. Does that help?
Yes.
So nothing happens quickly
Fast. Mhm.
by any means. And August would still be quickly considering that's considering just moving things as stated, but sometimes it wouldn't be that way.
Okay, does the statute describe the process in which that would happen? Because we can have, this just says 1 through 5. I would like to have a copy of what you have since it's already written and I don't have to look at my
very
phone.
differently.
Well, I would like to look at it since it's already been approved by the P&Z. So when you get that, if you could, and you can print it here at the town of Mesilla for me, you do that. And is there a process in which they have designated to inform you of that? Because it can be there, but for instance, this is a big deal for the town of Mesilla, the museum for J. Paul Taylor, right? J. Paul Taylor Museum, and that may happen in other situations. So is there a mechanism to make sure that 1 through 6 is implemented? Is that somewhere in here? Because all it says is that that's what the ordinance requires. It doesn't have any mechanism in which you were advised, they're advised that there's a form of communication that's required. Is that something that you discussed with them?
Yes, our code, basically, our section of that code is a list of the authority. And there's minimal information other than they adopt the state statute. All right, so under the historic preservation section. Under that historic, again, section, It is a series of rules, I guess their own rules and laws that they need to adhere to. With the exception of communicate with municipalities in efforts of preservation historically. And that's why section 6 was very important, so we are in the loop with whatever they don't necessarily have to get approval from us. They just have to keep a list of what they are doing.
That is because people were calling me to ask me what was going on. So, to me, it seems that that one, you would know if they were fulfilling 1 through 5. I don't know why 6 was left out when the codes were written like this, the ordinance was written like this, who knows, right? Because it would have made sense that at the time we adopted 1 through 5, we would have adopted 6.
My understanding it was that state statute was amended in itself,
Oh,
and
okay,
that section 6 was included to the state statute.
okay, because
Which
probably
is not
other municipalities had the same issue.
correct.
But the ordinance, the state statute doesn't describe a mechanism for making sure all those 1 through 6 are implemented. Like, they don't send a letter to the municipality and say, we're coming in. They don't say that the builder or the person in charge or the historic preservation chair of the state is in charge of telling the municipality what's happening.
That is correct, it does not.
Okay.
That is why it's important that we are involved with that, so we can inform our community when that's happening.
Right. I mean, my concern is still, I mean, we can have a huge book, which we do, of ordinances, but if there's not a mechanism for implementation or a mechanism where people are communicating, then it just kind of sits there, right? I mean, how do you know they filled up 1 through 5? Because it's in our ordinance, but if they're, I mean, I'm sure they didn't look at our codes and say, oh, well, they only adopted 1 through 5, so we won't communicate with them, right?
Well,
I doubt they would.
unfortunately, they did, because this is also part of our certification that's required for the certified local government. So it was one of the directions that was given by SHPO in specific, that if we want to apply for this, this is one of the things that we have to amend within our ordinance. Correct? So the state did say, you're missing this. Our recommendation is for you to add this in order for you to meet of the certified local government certification.
Okay, which is astute on their part, if that means they.
There was a
Because
thought to
So
Because they
at
have
least
to
they
fully
read our
review,
ones.
for the certified local government, they have to fully review our ordinances, how they're applicable, where we need to make amendments and changes within our ordinance, if there are things that need to be fully amended to meet the requirements for that designation. But also with that in mind, because our ordinance is almost exactly where it needs to be for that certification, just missing minor things. And a lot of those minor things can just be administered by staff directly. This is one of the ones that was recommended that would require the ordinance change in specific. So that's why you have it in front of you today.
So there's 2 parts to it. One, the trucks were showing up.
In communication.
And secondly, in order to achieve our certification,
Correct.
we need to have this. So there's
Which is,
more to it.
Again, I think it is there for us to be involved in it and the checks and balances to make sure that in order for us to be compliant with COG and funds and all that, we need to make sure that the state is coming in here and following their state statute and their rules.
The due process.
right. I mean, so they didn't notice it either until they had a project to do with that's, I'm sure.
Well, because we didn't adopt
Or
it.
the CLG.
They didn't adopt, we did not adopt section 6, so they didn't feel that they had to communicate with us on any kind of approvals from our office after the project already. I didn't get involved into electrical panels and everything was already installed, and I'm like, okay, we can find out what's going on.
Okay,
Well, when was the air conditioning unit? That was at the beginning, when the state was here and we were having to red tag them because they hadn't gotten permission or approval.
I don't know what stage, but I knew the air conditioning wasn't in place within right away.
Okay.
And I asked them, but they didn't have a business license either to work
Exactly.
under the state.
That was the other
Something
part.
They had to get done. And again, they very, the state was very, they have to come down, but they were very, to be able to, good relation with the municipality, we came down, we talked, and then we were definitely in good understanding of it. And they understood that, yes, maybe they should have kept us in the loop. It is our house, it is our home, we're not gonna come in here and just make changes, although you have authority to, so we still have to get involved.
Well, I see it kind of in the other way too, is that the, we want to expedite some things, we want to be, so that we're not holding them up like we did this year, with this project. So it also works in the reverse, is that we should be compliant, at some point, they made, changes that we were not aware of, so we didn't add that to our ordinance, so it would have been nice to have that there, but, already.
One of the things that I'm sure it wasn't brought up is, because of the delay of the air conditioning, the artifacts, and the staff, the people working there, it was that, we were slowing them down. The minute you give me that application, when you give me that business license, and we'll get it approved ASAP, right? That was just thinking that we'll work with you, although, I can understand, but it took them 2 weeks to get that application. Right, so at what point, to just say, go ahead and do whatever you want, or we follow the process, right? So, again, I feel comfortable, that, the minute they knock on my door or on email, that same day within an hour to, wasn't on my phone, was waiting on to get it done. Because definitely I didn't want to put any hurdles, matter of fact, this is a positive thing in our community that we definitely wanted to go through it and minimize the hurdles that they need to go through.
To jump, yeah, and we need to be, keeping up with that.
But again, this is just to keep us in the loop on what they're doing. It's not necessarily that they need our approval. It's just something that, so we can inform our community, of the process of what's going on.
So bottom line, the adoption of this six-part, it's gonna run smoothly for any future,
I hope so, yeah, that's the plan.
for sure. They may.
Yeah,
I can
fingers
assure you
crossed,
that.
yeah. We can hope.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have
Well,
to
that's
be
what I
hopeful.
mean,
Yeah.
there's not a mechanism for doing it, it's,
But I don't think we'll ever have a mechanism. Our job as elected officials is to make sure that we're constantly in contact with them and we're making those, building those bridges, whether it's with the state or here, to make sure we're constantly involved and constantly evolving in the correct way.
right, well, I agree with that, but if we just have statutes, it's the mechanism of how to implement those that are sometimes vital for making it be efficient, right? For not moving people up or accidentally having something done that wasn't coded.
Sorry.
You're good. Thank you. We just skipped to the community development stuff, and then that way you had your opportunity to take care of the town, which we appreciate.
Let me know when you're ready.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion on the suggested change for 18.33? Anything? No? Okay. Do you want to go right in, since you're already up, go right into 18.06? All right. So 18.06 is specifics for the Planning and Zoning Commission. This one I asked that we have just an open discussion about the commission, especially given the recent changes. That way we can look at the adoption of some changes through 1806 in particular. So Eddie, if you want to lead that real quick, and then we can interject between each other.
Yes, the reason why this came about was for not being able to have forum. And being able there to be for our community and being able to give the applicant due process for their request. What the mayor, I believe, already discussed with the governing board was the two alternates. to be able to meet a forum whenever, there is a possibility of not having all the commissioners here again. So I have a few questions with that, just to kind of clarify. And then, of course, it brings up any other questions that I'll get to here in a minute. So the alternates, are to, will be involved with the voting, they'll be involved with the discussion at all of our, they're being invited, I guess, to have to be a part of the commission as a discussion to review all the cases that are being heard by the commission. But at what point are they to step in to fill in for a commissioner? Is it when you don't have quorum, or whenever we're missing a commissioner? Right, so for instance, it's a 5-member board. If we have to, like, for example, today, we have one of the commissioners who wasn't able to be here, we have an alternate. Will this alternate be able to vote in the absence of the commissioner, although there is quorum established? Or do we only want them involved when there is no quorum? I guess it's my first question. And I'll pause there for comments and answers.
I have an opinion, but I think since we do have the added alternates that will be sitting in on the meetings, in order to have the widest perspective on anything that comes before planning and zoning, that if there's a quorum, but there is one person missing, that we allow one of the alternates to participate. We want some broad participation, and adding another person at every opportunity helps with the discussion and decision.
I would think the alternates have been appointed, so I would think if we're having a missing quorum or a missing member, that they could step in. My next question is, if both alternates are there, how are we going to determine if there's only one seat available? Is it going to be first come, first serve, whoever showed up to the meeting? I mean, how are we going to determine what member, what alternate serves?
That's a good question. As a matter of fact, that was gonna be one of my questions, which was if one of the commissioners either retires or does not, wants to continue the position as a commissioner, and there's 2 alternates, which ones are we gonna choose? I really don't have an answer for that. I'm open for suggestions on something like that. I would think that the board would probably decide which one, or the mayor, with the recommendation of the board, would decide. I don't know.
Maybe we have another interview process for one.
So if someone were to step down, then just start that process all over?
Because then how are you going to select between 2?
Or are we having the alternate fill in till that person's term is up?
There's another question.
So if we
Because
do,
we're talking either just a meeting,
yeah,
or the
Well, I
term is
think-
up,
yeah.
or someone leaves so
So
that's
I
another
think-
question.
well, I think once their term is up, the process has to start, in all
Over.
fairness,
Yeah,
all
right.
over again. But if we had someone step down like we have recently, and we have 2 alternates, it should still come to the board for a vote so we can
Oh.
choose.
Absolutely, but how do we choose?
Who do we choose from that
We have to have a process.
to
Well,
do
and a
that?
lot of that process is defined specifically in the application process for the certified local government. So we have to meet certain requirements for that. That's like in this last one, when we did it, in order for qualification purposes, the determination for the one that was appointed versus the ones that were appointed as alternates was given preference to the specific of the background history that met the requirements of the certification. The other applicants didn't necessarily meet that specific requirement, but they having more availability of people to participate, just as it's been brought up, and ensuring that we are able to establish that quorum was the necessity of that.
What if neither
So-
one has that?
What's that?
What was,
The background that's needed.
yeah,
And then we would not be able to apply for the certification.
but they're alternates, so that's where.
The alternates are, that's,
I don't know.
it's not, it's the appointed, the sitting commission, the application of the 5 sitting, because it's just like the lodgers tax board with that application, where a certain number of people within that board have to have the background of being an engineer, being in a planning and zoning commission setting for a certain amount of time, having building trades background, just to give a couple of the set requirements of that. It doesn't necessarily have to be the entire commission, but it has to be the majority that holds that.
Okay, so an
So-
alternate that doesn't have that could,
Can sit in, correct.
okay,
Gotcha.
that clarifies.
That's
But then-
that's my interpretation of the way that it was SHPO.
So how are we gonna decide if maybe one person, one alternate for one meeting?
I think that the meeting itself,
Rotation?
that we use-
That would be the
I'm
fair,
going-
yeah.
I'm going flip.
I can't quite toss.
It's at the chair's discretion. That's what it should always be. It
Okay,
should
so-
always be
So
at the
we
chair's
have that
discretion.
version.
So then we
Oh,
don't.
We don't have-
Okay, so there, that's answered.
But that's the point of this in this discussion of 1806 is because specifically when we look at the Planning and Zoning Commission, we want to be able to look at where we have some defaults in here that we need to address. This is one of those that having the alternates, even though we did it as a resolution, which suffices in the interim, but let's look at making something permanent that actually works, right? That handles for the long run. Same as going in and looking at 1806 and saying where there's the appointment of an ex officio member from the Board of Trustees. We know that we can't have an ex officio member present for voting reasons. So that needs to be struck from that specific part of the ordinance. These are the things that we need to be taking into consideration. Given our current climate of what we have in this, the intention of the way that the resolution was written was specifically in coverage of everything for planning and zoning, ensuring that we have adequate participation of the entire board. And so if one member of the 5 members was not present, then it would be at the chair's discretion to allow that member to become a voting member, and it would be noted at the beginning of the meeting. And that's what's been instructed of the chairperson already, if that is the case. That way it is clear, concise, and moving forward with that. Now, the 7 members, if they're all present, they can still participate in full discussion of everything that's being heard. It would only be the 5 members that are the board members that would be, and if chair designates the specific person that isn't appointed, they would become one of the voting members that would then vote on that. So like in today's case in point, where we had 3 original members, two members that were not present, but we did have one of the alternates present, then the chairperson could have assigned the alternate to serve in the place of this commissioner that is not present, if that makes sense. But that would have to be denoted at the beginning of the meeting for full clarification of that, right? The other part of this that we really need to look at, I'm sorry, Eddie, I'm just gonna interject on this. The other part of this that we really need to look at is, we have the ability to potentially do remote meetings, although Attorney General is saying move away from remote meetings and remote participation, right? So only on a limited basis. But the other part of this discussion that really needs to happen based upon previous performance, especially from the commission as a whole, is if there's a certain amount of meetings that are missed in specific, does that constitute us asking for a resignation at that point in time if there's meetings that are missed? So if we have continual meetings that a commissioner is not available, that has not notified or last minute notified that they're not available, would it be appropriate to adjust to reflect that, right? So that would be one. Or do we allow emergency remote participation? And if we do allow remote participation, just as it is for other boards that we sit on, is there only going to be one person that's allowed to be allowed to participate remotely? And if it's only that one person, that has to be accepted by the chair, right? If that remote participation is allowed. I mean, some of us sit in those meetings where it is not, that's the way that it is run. do we want to adopt the ordinance change to specifically reflect something like that? It's a discussion. Do we move, how would you all like to see this move forward with that in general? All right, I'll be quiet for a minute. Open discussion.
I mean, prior with participation, I would have said whoever can go on web, great. But now that we have two alternates, and it's a little stricter, and we're meeting qualifications for the CLG, sorry. There's no reason we couldn't implement similar to what we do in other boards and just have one person remotely join. And it puts responsibility on our planning and zoning as well. If you volunteered for this time for this position.
Yeah, that's a good point with the two alternates being there. Yeah,
So-
the remote thing kind of dissipate.
Although there should be for that
Yeah,
in emergency
Absolutely.
situations. But there should be limitations on it.
So the question really is, in that thought then, is if we have, let's say we have our planning and zoning commission in this. We have two members that aren't able to participate in person. So, but one of the members can participate remotely, but we have our two alternates that are able to step in. Are the alternates allowed to be the voting member of what is and appointed by the chair at that point in time? Or do we only allow one of the alternates and allow virtual participation at that point in time? So I think that these are viable questions that just need to be thought about.
I knew
I
you were
think
gonna
the
go there.
original-
Well, I mean,
I know it's true. I
it's
think
the what
the
ifs,
latter.
right?
Yeah.
So.
I think
Yeah,
the
the latter. The first 5 should have the opportunity. If they can join web, great. And obviously, if we only allow one person web, then the second person would be filled in by the alternate.
And I think voting would fall with the original
Mhm.
commissioners.
What is the basis for just allowing one remote, just so it reduces potential confusion or what?
Well,
I mean,
I'd
let's
say-
say 2 members, I mean, there are voluntary people spend, they need to know the ordinances. We want people that have some history, right? We want people we do want them to do consecutive if they can, whatever, so that they know the history of the ordinance board and they know the ordinances. And it just improves everything, right? Because they have some perspective and some context of how we can move forward. So I would think that we would want that, right? We would want people to stay in if they wanted to and were able to participate, but why would we restrict them to let's say 2 people are taking vacation in June, July, and August, right? Or some of our members even, are people that get to travel, right? And so why would we say only one of you can participate if you're the other 9 months of the year, whatever they're participating on a regular basis, or let's say they're gone over the month of December and New Year's or something because they have kids in another country or something, or another state. So why do we limit them? Is that an attorney?
I think it's because of other boards that we've been serving on. Like, for example, the MPO only has one. I don't think the county commissioners limit remote participation. And I believe the city does not allow remote participation. So,
I think
It
it's
was just
finding a
a-
balance, yeah.
yeah,
But
a
then you
number.
also have like SCOG, where there's a ton of people that do it remote. However, they're in different locations throughout the state. So that's a little harder to
Yeah.
manage. But we're here, it's within our town. Our town is only so big. And it gives opportunity for everybody as well. Instead of just having, because let's say that does happen and then we have 5 people who need to be remote,
yeah.
can't hear, something happens with the computer, case in point, and then we can't get anything done. So it kind of just limits the issues we would have for having multiple people miss it or whatever may happen, misunderstandings, however they might happen, it's probably the most streamlined process that you could use.
And we probably do want to pick a number to limit, because I can see it being a fallback on, even though, during the pandemic, it was great, but yeah.
So we could consider two. instead of
Yes.
one.
Yeah, we could
To be
consider
fair, I mean,
yeah.
But the other direction that we might want to do is actually have staff look in. I mean, we can say 2 right now and limit it to 2, but we can have the staff look into what the Attorney General's recommendation
Yeah,
is.
that would.
Because they're really trying to make, the AG's office is really trying to make virtual meetings or participation in virtual meetings move away completely.
That, only because, I've read in different arenas that if there's any, like if somebody does fall off, or, you're saying, I can't hear you or whatever, that it pretty much negates the whole thing, you can't continue to conduct a meeting if somebody is participating, a voting member and can't hear. Right, or you can't understand them, that kind of, so if we are gonna continue not to have web service, in a pretty successful way, since we
End
don't
of
have.
the month,
we
end of the
should
month.
soon, right?
End of the month. Well,
Only, all of us participated a lot on websites during the pandemic, and I really actually liked it, but, that's the problem, is if we can, more than likely, if we have a good system set up, the likelihood that we can communicate in that way successfully is pretty good. If we continue to have problems, then we know that our success rate is going to be kind of low. So we should bear in mind those things. But, I just think it is, 2024, and we should allow for that. But like you said, if the Attorney General is recommending don't do that, I don't know why anybody would do that, in my view. But, I don't know why the Attorney General would say something like that when we're all on, technology is not going to go away in any way, shape, or form, and it may discriminate against some people not to be able to do it that way.
One of the issues is, in the past, when there was deployments in the military, people had to be away. There was no choice. And I remember one of the trustees, I think, participated that because he was somewhere in the Middle East.
Just
Correct.
Bruno.
So there should be some exceptions in cases like that.
Yeah.
If they are deployed, then they're open to participating, and that would be, they're serving the military, so.
And I think that's where that section of why you could miss or why you could join via web or whatever may happen should be explained, and just kind of list what if, then you're allowed, kind of thing. It's just, I think minimizing the amount of people going on the web just limits the amount of margin of error, per se. Yes, we are technology driven, but there's still a margin of error.
But go by not how many, right? So.
Eddie.
Yeah, if I may, I got a couple comments. I think one of the reasons why the Attorney General is recommending to shy away from remote is because of the abuse. One of the reasons I've been in a lot of remote communication meetings, and the abuse that, either one commissioner or trustee or any member of the board continuously does not go to meetings and finds a way of being involved by joining remotely, much faster, much easier, kind of a thing. And two is that the Attorney General, because you are elected officials or members of the committee or the board, they I don't want to say expect you, but you should be able to be part of physically in person, because these people put you in that position to be able to get a hold of you and so on. And three is, it's not as easy. I'm sure that it's happened here before. I've heard it before, but they've tried it. I'm thinking it's not very easy to hold a meeting when somebody, especially more than one, is joining the meeting remotely. There's no radio etiquette in a sense, because it hasn't been trained, you know, kind of like law enforcement, you know, there's radio etiquette to where, you know, there's minimized, radio time, right? That's why they talk all these kind of weird languages. And they, you know, we do. That's why I say copy over the weird little cliches that they do. But because it's radio etiquette for that purpose, because so many times one commissioner doesn't know because they're on the phone, are they done? Do I step in? You know, then now you're talking amongst each other and they can't hear, they don't understand. So it gets very disruptive. So by maybe just having one, it's easier to control. And in certain circumstances, such as trustee I mentioned here about, you know, getting deployed and all that. So, one question I do have, maybe for Ben or maybe for the board, is if you allow remote participation from the to a member of the board, would it be necessary also under the Open Meeting Act that the public be able to be involved in that as well? I mean, I really don't know, but it's a
So like
question
for
I want to
public
bring
comment?
for public comment. Because the ones that I've been in did allow public comment along with remote participation. And if you do that, you almost need an operator operating all of these calls, come in and go and come in and go. So it was just a question that I don't know, and I was looking for this opportunity to ask this question. Over. And how many times can they?
Yeah.
Participate remote. I mean, I know it's not as bad as absent, right? But again, you know, we don't want everybody to be able to abuse that and always be wanting to call in. Next, because I still got other.
Well, with that, I mean, do we want to look at, as we work on this ordinance update, to meet these requirements, do we want to look at the possibility of what it looks like for the number of absences there are that a
Mhm.
commissioner misses
Mhm.
without effective communication, or set those guidelines? I don't even know if that's,
I would say
Yeah.
I
yes.
think that would be possible, and also, we should, I don't know, I think we should consider extenuating circumstances too, I mean.
naturally, right?
So, yeah.
Effective communication at the end of the day is always better, right? But, so if we were to put a number to it, just in general, what would that number look like?
We have a 2-year
Because we're,
term.
well, you're looking at just take it on a yearly basis. So if we're doing 2 meetings a month, you're looking at 24 meetings total in a year, on average.
Okay.
So how, out of 24 meetings, what is an acceptable amount to miss?
4 to 6.
And how is that number determined effectively and without being arbitrary?
I would like to know how many, I know it's a lot, like how many times we have not had a quorum established, you know, like a set amount. And in order, that's
This
just my
year?
own. Yeah, I mean, to determine
I don't have
absence.
the exact number, but I would say off the top of my head, maybe 5 times,
Okay.
since I've been here within a year.
Okay.
Okay.
And because I certainly understand what Trustee Cadena was saying about, you know, they're volunteers,
Mhm.
they're not paid, so it's something we need to take into effect.
Mhm.
But it also, you know, you're volunteering and
Yeah.
you
And
need to be present.
It affects what can be done, and how residents are treated, right? That they get things approved. It's a mechanism of approving something that they need done. So it's important that we do consider that it has to be done in a timely manner, because that's what has
The
prompted
problem.
this whole thing with the alternatives. I mean, I think actually, you know, having alternatives, doing a remote kind of thing as an exception. I mean, I don't think they have to be deployed. I think there can be extensions. Because, you know, people that go out of country or,
Or they're in an
They have-
accident or something.
Yeah. So I think extenuating circumstances would happen with effective communication, like you said. I mean, if those in combo should totally alleviate us getting behind on PSAC meetings, right? Like if a person said, I really want to, but I don't think, I'd like to get on remote. This is my third absence, but as long as they communicate, but I don't think my web connection will stay up or whatever. And you get that, and then we get the two alternatives to step in and they both vote. I mean, things like that, right? That they think they can't, I mean, even if it's, so I think a combination of that and maybe an exception or a extenuating circumstances situation. And I think absences, I think we can pick a number. It doesn't have, I mean, in a way it has to be arbitrary because we don't have any way of quantifying it at this point in time. I don't think.
Yeah. Unless,
And
Eddie might have a good feel on what that number could be.
well, he said it's only we've only had 5 times in last year that hasn't met a quorum though. So we don't know if that's the 2 are showing up all the
Right.
time and 3 aren't, right? Or they're different ones.
Everybody say one.
Same one. So we could probably come up if it's 5 and we really can't get our business done with 5 absences, then it's not arbitrary, right? It's 5 absences and we got behind. And then we were, as a board of trustees,
Remember?
looking at approving things that we weren't totally prepared to do just because we depend on the planning and zoning and like a lot. So maybe 5's the number, if that was close enough to the thing you thought. If they miss 5 or maybe 3 consecutive, 5 total or something in 6 months, I mean, something like that.
It's a combination.
Then we just say, hey, we're good. The chair comes to you, Mayor, and says, we can't get our jobs done because of this. I'd like to put in alternative number 1 in, or whatever the case would be, and then you bring it to us. I don't know. Or we go through this interview process. I don't know. Whatever that looks like, ordinance, or if not, just, lead person, or something like that. Like you did last time, you came up with the solution and proposed it to us.
Yep.
That seems reasonable.
I
I mean, we'd like to know though ahead of time.
Definitely, no doubt.
Like, we're not, we haven't been able to meet,
Yeah.
have a question in regards to absences and the planning and zoning. When they're missing, do they notify you ahead of time, or has there been instances where you didn't know they were not going to show up?
For the most part, they have. There's been a couple times where there was no notification at all. The email or it could have been in a student that we mentioned some kind of circumstance that we were not.
I think we don't have to make it that elaborate either.
No.
Because then it gets dicey,
Correct.
Like, did they call? Who did they call? Did they call the mayor? They called Eddie. They didn't call Eddie, but they called the mayor. You were out of town.
Yeah. Don't call me.
Don't call the mayor.
Call it.
He's-
But if at all possible, they should notify somebody.
No,
They
well,
should
that's
be
what I
somebody.
mean, is if we make it too complicated, then we go down, I mean, somebody's looking at the,
It's a rabbit hole.
rabbit hole, going, okay, they did this, but didn't do this, and then they did this, and so we should just kind of narrow it down to a few alternative circumstances, and that's it.
So what if we just did 6 absences, but if there was 3 consecutive, then do we need to have a bigger conversation? Because that's
That sounds-
25%, so.
Yeah, if we're done with this subject, I hate to kind of waste,
You're
time. I'm sure there's other.
No, well, that's what, do you have anything else
As far as
for 1806?
for 1806,
Or do you all have anything else for
No, I think
1806?
that was a good suggestion that trustee had.
that is it for 1806. I have a couple other notes, but.
Great. So we'll skip back up to A real quick, for discussion on the fireworks. ordinance and updates on that, Fire Chief, if you would, please. Yeah, most definitely welcome.
I brought Fire Marshal Embry also because this is also something that affects him.
Right.
Thank you all for accommodating our unplanned change of schedule. The mayor and I have been talking about the fireworks ordinance. I wanted to change it before the 4th of July this year, but I waited too long. We just didn't get to it. So that's all on me. But the ordinance as written is cumbersome. And it's the way we are staffed right now, it's impossible to enforce. I don't have the staff to do what that is asking us to do. This year, we put together a different permit that still met the requirements of the ordinance and made an effort to be a little bit more proactive and enforcing, doing what that did, just to see, okay, how bad is this? And it's just too much work for a volunteer department to follow that. But I will speak up loud. So we're trying to redo the ordinance, the permit process. And some of the things that we looked at were, this isn't a banning fireworks, that's not the discussion. The discussion right now is, my thought is not to have the individual permit for people that buy fireworks. As far as I can tell, speaking to the State Fire Marshal's office, we're the only ones that are doing it, especially the way we are doing it. It's a tiered system based on how much you buy, which makes it very hard because we have to look at not just, the permit has to address the aerials, which is the only thing we can put a permit on by state law. We can't put a permit on the safe and sane fireworks. So then we have to take the time to look at, okay, well, how much did you buy that wasn't safe and sane? And then how much were you charged? And it becomes a very cumbersome process. I'm sure it slows down for the vendors. They've been invited to be here. It slows down their process and makes it very difficult for them to do the accounting. And we don't have the staff to sit there and count through permits and do that accounting. So looking at the fire code, the fire code allows the fire code official to enforce several layers of what are called operational permits. And the only jurisdiction that would share that information with me right now is El Paso. And they do have an operational permit for everything that the fire code allows. I'm not proposing that we do all of that. Again, go back to the staffing issue, right? But part of that permit is explosives and fireworks are bundled in the same little block. And we have, you look right there, operational permit required for manufacture storage of any quantity. Here's a little bit more of that. Explosives, explosive materials, fireworks, pyrotechnic, special events. I highlighted the things that were in red that are things that might pertain to the town of Mesilla. We're not going to have semiconductor manufacturing in the town of Mesilla anytime soon. So I didn't highlight that. But things like hot work operations, right? I highlighted that. Anybody that's using fire to put down a roof has to have a permit if you're following that section of the fire code, which we've all already adopted. I'm not saying, again, that we want to do all of these things. I'm just saying that we've already adopted a process that allows us to do this. The fireworks, then, my thought then, if we really want to have a permit process in any way, and we discussed this with the vendors, is putting forward an annual fee to the vendor so that we know that they're coming in town, what they're bringing into town, that gets tied to their business license, and then how they choose to pass that along is up to them. And then we're no longer tracking the paperwork. They're not slowed down having a line of people filling out information that really, in the end, most of them are just filling in Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck because they don't think that we should know who's filling out the permit.
I have a quick question,
Yes, ma'am.
Chief. So it was my understanding with these permits, I say we, because I've bought fireworks, we fill them out. Are you saying that you get the logbooks back to review? And also with those permits, I thought part of the money was coming to the municipality. So if you're imposing, depending on what kind of fee for the vendors, that seems that I don't know that we're gonna be able to recoup as much money as we would have with people filling out permits. And lastly, it's never, I mean, Chief Hoban never brought this up as a concern. So, just my thoughts initially.
Okay, so let me see if I can address them all. I'll start from the last one. First of all, Chief Hoban brought up concerns to me,
Okay.
and that we weren't recovering what we expected to recover.
Okay.
But because of the enforcement issue and following up, if I print out, and we'll talk about the permits here in a second, and I get several hundreds books of permits, there's no way to track that log other than to sit there and manually count through and say, okay, Donald Duck and Daisy Duck bought these fireworks. Well, who are those people? Because I don't have the connection, right? We don't have any idea. That permit book itself, this happened last year when I went to go, oh, it's 4th of July. I need to do permit books. I went down to Instacopy and said, I need our normal order of permit books. Didn't even think about it. $4,000 later for permit books. And if you look at the permit, how much that cost for us to do the permit books and the time and effort that we spend going through this process, we don't recover what we're putting into it to get that money. Yeah, the money's coming in. There's something coming into the town. In this case, it was about, I'm going to say about $6,200 for the last year that we got, because the only thing that's being permitted are the aerials. So if you want to go buy fountains and sparklers for your kid's birthday party, there's no permit.
Right.
So in the end, we're in the red when we're doing it this way. We just don't have the ability to follow through on this. The other side of it that concerns me is that the permits were paid for out of fire protection fund. And in the past, any permit fees that were collected didn't come back into the fire department fund. And that was another thing that Chief Hoban had concerns with. It went into the town general fund and we were never given the opportunity to spend it. This last year, Ms. Maya made sure that we had the ability to spend money that was put in there. But that becomes a problem when I spend fire protection fund money on this stuff and then I don't get it, right? There's a disconnect. So looking at the permit, the only thing I liked about the permit, and the one we came up with this year, is I have
And I appreciate that you have, you involve the vendors, definitely getting their feedback.
So this is a copy of the one, and this is exactly as it was. I didn't go spend $4,000 and print these things out. Mr. Mayor's already seen it. Gloria, would you like to see one, or did you get one? Any of it? So the only thing about this is that I put the rules on. And this year, for the most part, I think we had one of our
Spot checks are good.
spot checks were good on the permits being handed out. They're a big sheet of paper. They're easy to see. It's legible. It's not this little tiny print that says, hey, if you have questions. The old one said, go to NTC 9.1.
Right.
Nobody knows what NTC is, so they weren't going there to look it up. So that's the only thing I liked about this, is that we were putting the rules on how to safely follow our ordinances when you're using fireworks. That was what I liked about it. But other than that, it's still a process that we still have a lot of pushback. Why do you need to know who I am? When you're supposed to have a permit? This is what the code is. We're still following the code. The vendors went ahead, I gave them each 5, and they went and made copies. They did that on their own to help expedite this. So, but I still don't like the permit. If you look at the tiered system, it looks like a tax. That's my
And real quick, just when we look at other municipalities, what's going on in other municipalities, let's take Anthony, for example. Anthony charges a flat $350 rate for everything that is aerial or a noisemaker per se. But that still becomes something that's cumbersome for the fire department, for the vendors, for the people that are actually buying the fireworks. So I think that's what we're looking at as a whole is these permit fees, how they're being applied, and the necessity of it all in general.
And what do we get out of it? What's our end
What's the
result?
purpose?
The purpose is, what is the purpose of the permit?
So are we giving these to everybody, no matter who buys in the town of Mesilla, or are we just charging to residents?
No,
Good
no.
question, right? So the way the permit's set up is anybody who buys fireworks gets the permit. But what if you go buy fireworks up on the hill and come
Yeah,
back
or
to
at
Mesilla? Or at Walmart, or, well, they're not gonna buy aerials at Walmart because
You can't buy it, yeah.
Specifically aerials.
So
Yeah.
you have to buy aerials, you go to Anthony and
Yeah.
buy them, or Sunland Park, or wherever, and you buy them, come back. Now you don't have a permit, and there's really no process the way this is to get one. Other than going and buying more fireworks, which now it doesn't match what you have.
Yeah.
Right, that becomes cumbersome. So is the purpose of the permit to generate revenue? Because we're not succeeding with
In
that
that,
based on what we're spending.
Well, and I think one thing to think about with that, the general thought of mine, because I remember buying fireworks a couple years ago, and specifically with it wasn't last year, because last year, about a ton, I'm not afraid to say that, but a couple of years ago, I specifically remember that one of the questions that was asked at the register was, are you a resident? All right, well, let me verify your address is within the town limits. If you weren't living within the town limits, then they weren't gonna sell you, and it was at your all stand, they weren't gonna sell the specific fireworks, that style per se, or permit, if it wasn't the permit wasn't allowed. So just another option, but this was years ago.
And you can imagine how long that would slow down the process.
And we don't want to overreach and create a burden on
We
anyone
create
else.
a burden on the business.
The thing then is like, I look at it this way, I am a small government person.
Mhm.
And you're a business person, I'm a business person, he's a business person. Businesses in town can be very, very hard to run because of the permit layers that are in there. And I feel, my personal opinion, if you want to know it, is we have the basic permit, the annual permit, and the fee level that becomes up to the board, right? I'm not gonna, I can tell you what El Paso charges, but that's all I know. Nobody else will share their information with me. We give them that annual permit, just saying, okay, we're bringing this hazardous material into town. I need to know about it. I want to know how much you have, where it is. That's part of your business license. And then we let them do business. And then the GRTs go up. And then we get that income that way, rather than trying to nickel and dime and slowing things down with the permit. That's in the end costs us more time and money than it's worth.
So it's revenue generating, it's not safe, it doesn't involve safety, or if you go out and you go check a resident that they're shooting off all kinds of stuff, and you go over there and say, where's your permit? That's not really happening. With personnel,
We
It'd be
went out
difficult
and
to-
did that. We always do it on 4th of July. And if right now, the code as it stands, 11 o'clock. And we'll go back to the station at 11 o'clock, and we'll be in the station, we'll hear them going on.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll go out, and
Oh,
if I can
yeah.
see where it is, and I can hear, okay, it's over there, and we'll go and find them, you need to stop what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what we're doing, is we're just enforcing that level, but that's still there. So part of the process that the mayor talked about is saying, okay, part of this, we're reducing the burden on the vendor. You make sure that these rules that we're gonna give you are still in the packet when people buy them. Because I think that helps. I really do. They review these. Don't go to the Bosque and burn down the Bosque. That's a federal thing. That's bad, right? Don't do it after whatever our end of time is. Don't do them in the street because little kids get hit by cars. And that kind of ruins the 4th of July. So let's not do that either. And don't do it on somebody's property without your permission. So those rules are there, and they're given to them either on the receipt or however we can work that out. Or the mayor and I talked about taking this money that we're getting back and saying, well, how are we going to spend it? Let's put it back into safety. We give them a poster that they put up at the site, and we give them the flyers that they can then hand out.
And all those flyers and posters and all of that costs as well. So why don't we think about this a little bit smarter? And what if we're trying to be technology driven per se, We have applications now. We have, well, I mean, apps, not application, physical
Right.
application, but applications. What if, because our goal is to create safety in the town of Mesilla and make sure everybody's following those rules. That's essentially the goal, right? So what if you were to put that processing fee online and we give all the rules online? And what if they paid a small fee for firework use in Mesilla, and each resident who is doing fireworks would have to fill that out? That way, you know that that person has all the rules, you know what needs to be done, but we're still generating some sort of revenue to kind of help with all of that. Or help with your department, per se.
I don't think people are gonna go online and
Yeah.
do that. I just truly don't.
Or if they
Especially
came to town hall and did that, not necessarily just online.
it'd be another stop for them. I mean, they're, just my opinion, when
Yeah.
they're going to buy fireworks,
Yeah.
I mean, they're going, you know, I don't think a majority of the people are thinking about, oh, let me go online and
And fill
just,
out my permit. No, I
Yeah,
totally agree,
yeah,
but again,
just a
how do we
thought.
get all that information for
Right.
safety out?
right,
Well,
right, that's the other
Without
thing.
So for
handing out flyers, printing out,
Right.
and
Well, the
spending all
electronic
that money.
side of it is
Yeah.
then on the poster that we have there, hey, these are the rules.
Yeah.
A QR code.
Yeah.
And
And
we
they
have
can
that
just
there,
scan
and
it
then they
and
can,
have it
the
on
the
there.
electronic minded person can, oop, I've got those, okay, I know my rules, and then go out and make it be safe.
Yeah.
And because in the end, that's what we want, is I don't wanna have somebody hit by a car because they're playing
Right.
in the street.
Mhm.
I don't wanna have a big fire. I mean, the fireworks inherently are dangerous. Even if you're following all the rules,
Mhm.
something that we all see in the videos. So, something bad can still happen, but as long as they're following the rules, you're not,
Yeah.
there's not something preventable that's gonna happen. It's something that they did something, didn't set it at the end of the fuse, set it right at the beginning of the fuse or whatever.
Yeah.
So we try and be I want to be as safe as we can, obviously, but the fact is that it is 4th of July, we're celebrating freedoms, and putting more rules on those
On
freedoms
people.
kind of seems antithetical to that, right? So,
So
I
what,
like this.
just to get straight through this, and what Chief is suggesting, at the end of the day, and what would be great is, I mean, just some of the changes that you see here, just to run through, because I do have a copy that the Chief and I have been working on, and just to kind of go through is, we do have a permanent store that is in town now, along with our itinerant vendors as well that come in. But just making sure that we only allow the two like we have before, or the 1,500-foot gap between that. That way it still maintains competition, but we're not seeing fireworks stands pop up all over the place
Right.
still, right? So we still maintain that within there. Striking the possession and sale of aerial and ground audible devices during those periods of times, because these guys are selling these fireworks, especially the brick and mortar, selling it year round, right? So, correct?
So aerials year round, right?
Yeah, so those
So
are
we are
available.
banning fireworks.
No. It would, because they're selling it, so they should be able to sell it and utilize them year round.
The old way of the code only allowed you to sell aerials from June 20th to July 6th. That was it. But now that we have a brick and mortar, or then it said, unless you have a brick and mortar, well, now we have a brick and mortar, so then we just take that out.
Okay,
And that's what we're trying to say.
so there's still, okay.
Yes.
But in that same breath, what we're looking at is changing that discharge time. During normal hours or whatever, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., with the exception of the 4th of July until 10, which we may have to revisit based upon the show that happens, right?
Right. So the show
And
starts
kind
at
of follow
9:30,
through with the
goes to 10,
celebration
so-
on that. And 12:30 for the first, so we can look at
Maybe
all
we
of
need
that.
to say 3 p.m. They went off till 3, I'm just kidding.
3 a.m.
I know.
Well, but that also, in having that, it allows the enforcement side to happen, that allows
Yeah.
our team to get out there, where we're not enforcing at the business, we're actually able to get out there to enforce within the
Right,
community
right.
even more, so no policing the business per se. And penalty and confiscation, this one has been changed up a little bit, not in here, but again, to not reflect or, it would just be specific of the, these are the actions that would happen in there, basically confiscation being taken in there. These are the big ones in here, looking at this section, where we were looking at the permit in specific, instilling a, it was first thought in initial discussions, and this hasn't changed since the past discussions, because we want to hear what you all think, where we were originally talking about a monthly fee being imposed, and that can be also paid annually. This is a hazardous fee, though, because a hazardous material fee, which can be imposed by the town as that specific fee. It cannot be done as a permit fee, because through state fire code, the permit fee can only go up to $25 total that is added to the total of the bill for each individual sale. So what is being suggested is elimination of this whole section G, which is the permit fee in general. Eliminate the permit fee total. We would take a monthly fee or a yearly fee, and it's been discussed recently that we would just do a minimal yearly fee in order to accommodate and take care of posters, generalized printing that can be given to the businesses so that they can include that in their sale with basically the guidelines of use. And here's what can be your fireworks and the recommended uses of that. And then of course, having that all posted. So basically that strikes all of that fee for $2 to $51, everything so on and so forth, as well as the position of a permit and that fee from that ordinance. So that's the suggested, sorry to just jump straight to the point of what, because we can always go through it. If that's not something that you all agree with by any means, it can always be revisited. But this is something through discussion and really looking into. So the other part to think about is because how we had the dry climates that as of recently in our last meeting, there was discussion specifically about looking at the use of fireworks, so on and so forth. So per state statute, the municipality can still instill a ban on fireworks per se, but it has to be more than 20 days of notice to the business, and it has to be done by proclamation in specific. So we have to know the conditions, and of course those conditions can always be lifted and given up and or altered throughout, as long as that proclamation is specifically dedicated, depending upon how dry it is, how wet it is, conditions as it's deemed by state fire marshal, by local fire marshal, right? And we move forward with that. So there is the potential of that. But what we're really looking at is the limitations or what's provided as the extra burden to our business that provides something to our residents, that also takes up time from our staff, just as it's been discussed, that takes up time for the business. So what can we do to streamline for all three that makes it uniform and consistent for all three parties that are fully involved in that? So that's where this is really coming from and what that looks like and potential.
And there's a wide extreme of how that fee would work. Like I said, the way El Paso is structured is an annual fee, and it's $125. But they also have operational permits for a ton of other things, and it's a lot of work for they have a whole department that's all they do is manage that. So I can see that from their point of view. We don't have that, and trying to manage all of that every year would be very, very problematic. So that's why I lean towards the smaller fee on my end. Like I said, we've been playing with this.
For the vendors directly.
To the vendor directly as part of their
And they
business
figure out if they want to recover or how they recover that fee through their business
Right,
operation.
because at the same time, we don't want to make it where we're putting an onerous burden on them that they have to raise their prices so high that all the people drive up to Baldwin's or to Summer Park and buy their fireworks. And then the businesses go bankrupt, and that's not what we're trying to do.
Right.
No,
Right, we want
I
it-
understand
It's
that.
gotta be something where we find some happy medium in there. Say this year, our up until July 1st, our last year's intake of permit fees was about $6,200. So do we say, hey, how do we figure that out? That we take that same amount-ish and put it back on the vendor? Do we do it that way? Or do we just say, hey, it's $150?
Flat fee.
Yeah, a fee, we'll move on with our lives and let them, there's still a lot of enforcement that goes on. We do an inspection on them, the state fire marshal does an inspection on them. Everybody's trying to make sure that everybody's following the rules and nobody's doing anything sneaky or dangerous in the background. So that's still there.
And it would be implemented with our permanent structure and then with the individuals that would come in.
Correct, anybody that would be coming in, which we don't have, I mean, there's no place else for somebody else to set up a fireworks location, maybe a 1,500 feet, 1,500 feet, and there's two.
Yeah.
There's two, so the both of them, when they apply for their annual business license, will get that permit fee added on, and it would be done and over with, and we wouldn't have to stress over this anymore. But it is in there, right? The fireworks retailers will display a copy of the safe use rules, including section B, right, of each section of the code and warnings against using them in the Fossil Park and Rio Grande River levees. So then that's part of the code.
I mean, I think it's a good reminder and people, I mean, that they have access to the rules for sure.
Well, and I think too, it's a protection of liability when they can say, hey, we gave you this.
Exactly.
It's right here.
And then, and if we do that, and we also provide a QR code on that
Right,
poster,
that's a great
I think
idea.
that would be really a simple way for people to say, I mean, we've had people like, oh yeah, we're not supposed to do it in the street. Like, yeah, it's also after 11, please put your stuff away. Like, they didn't read everything. They read part of it at least.
And I know, the vendors, our businesses can't comment during the work session, but I would like to hear their comments at one point. I mean, feel free to, if you're gonna stay at the meeting or email me or call me. Yeah, because I really like to get your thoughts and feedback. And I, again, appreciate that you're working directly with them because it impacts them in the town.
It is hard because we are an enforcement agency, right? So it's hard to keep, right, it's hard to keep that relationship. We work well with them. They've been working with us. This last year, it's been difficult for all of us, trying to get through this.
So it's kind of just determining the fee now and what we feel that fee structure is gonna be.
Correct. That's a legislative body problem,
And
not.
will, yeah, not chief problem. And will it be different for brick and mortar versus tent too? That's another thing.
Yeah.
I don't think so personally, because I think it's just business is business.
So it'd be the same all around.
The
I pay the
fee
same
is the
business.
same depending
As
upon,
I do.
I mean, you sell fireworks year round, you sell fireworks year round. It is what it is. That's the benefit of having.
And I guess you're
the
paying
business is your own.
operations if you're selling year-round versus.
Correct.
Oh,
Just the
week.
1 month.
Yeah,
of the
or
year.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
It's money to keep a building going.
Which is why.
Yeah. You're exactly right.
All right, real quick.
Okay.
Sorry, any other questions on this one or comments on that? Because we do want to try to stay on task on this. So just to follow up on item D. So for the short-term rental ordinance, that one was included in your packet as it was originally presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission as it was drafted by Eddie originally. With that, the Planning and Zoning Commission gave a little bit of feedback. There was more feedback from residents, and then this was also heard again at the Planning and Zoning meeting today. The decision by the Planning and Zoning Commission was to postpone any type of action on that so that this can be heard in an ad hoc committee in as it's been suggested, so that we can gather more information and really build an ordinance that works for the town as a whole. You have received information that has been emailed to you, and it will be included in the official minutes as well of the regular meeting by residents. But so that those actions will be definitely taken into consideration, and hopefully those residents will be a part of the ad hoc committee as that is formed as well. But the ad hoc committee that we do create that will be run and chaired by Eddie in specific will not only be members of the business community as far as it pertains to short-term rental owners, because that would be not okay, right? It'll definitely be other community members who are volunteer, other business owners, and anybody else that you all feel might be necessary to be on there. I would recommend, because this has been somewhat of a hot topic lately, that you all also provide a little direction to Eddie as well, or provide him some feedback on feedback that you might have heard throughout, not just from that's been emailed, but if you've had these conversations or if you've had the experience in running and operating a short-term rental as well, please provide that feedback to Eddie. That way it gives a little bit of guideline for him to really work with this ad hoc to create something that works in the best interest of everybody as a whole for this ordinance to come to play. We're working on the short-term rental ordinance right now because it is something that's needed in our community, and we feel that it's needed because of, I mean, there's any number of different ways to look at it, but it's something that we need to look at before there's issues with it. So
Is there a predicted timeline on it?
as soon as we get direction, and we get this committee formed, which is halfway formed, I will say. I know of at least a dozen residents that are interested, but we need to have a good active participation all around. So the goal there again, I would say, if we're looking at it just in transparency of process, and as it was explained earlier with any of this, we're probably looking at sometime in August. September is probably more realistic. So
Okay.
on that.
What would you say the short-term rental applications? I mean, are you seeing a lot of them come through? I mean, I know we've looked at a lot, but.
No, not recently.
Okay. And just as a side note, I mean, I looked at the proposed ordinance, and I do think it's a hot topic for everybody. And I think we're just so unique. I mean, I know we say that all the time, like Lucia is so unique. But in this circumstance where we're trying to, we want people to be able to have income that, as many have stated, just to keep up the homes, right? And just to have extra income to do those kinds of things. But, I mean, the ordinance for rural agriculture and RF and RA zones, I mean, yes, they don't I think we can't be coy about what definitions are, right? Because when I read the RA and RF code, it pretty much says that you can't use those zones for commercial purposes or business purposes. And yet the code itself says all that stuff. It says business, commercial.
So let's look at this and at the ordinance suggestion and make those suggestions however you see,
Okay,
and
but
provide that direction. So,
But I'd like to have, and that's why I'm bringing it up, so that we all think about it. Because if you look at the RA and RF zones, which the short term, if you read it, it's proposing that we allow them all over town, right? I mean, in all zones, right? That it's regardless of zones. And, we've had that come up to us. And so for us, we're so small that a precedent can be set very easily because we're so small. And one or two or three applications kind of put us in a certain direction if we looked at it a certain way. So, I do think that I don't think that we can disregard the way that the zoning is, the ordinance reads right now. And to me, an Airbnb, short-term rental, all those, I mean, to me, it's a little misleading to say that they're not a business, right? And it specifically says that they can, in our A&R zones, that we can't have anything unrelated to either agriculture or farming in those zones, is the way I read it.
So we're looking at the potential of a revision of the entire ordinance.
I see.
And that's what I'm saying.
I
So
mean,
an
that's what
ad
I
hoc
would
committee
require.
is gonna be created. The ad hoc will provide the recommendations as it's seen.
Okay,
And then at that point in time, we will have the planning and zoning give their recommendations, their changes, and then it will come into another work session like this. And then it will go into another public hearing aspect. So this is gonna be a
I
drawn out
understand that, but
process.
we've already
So-
had some approvals in those zones, right? And so because we've had approvals in those zones, to me, it was a little controversial before we've actually developed the short-term rental ordinance, which I absolutely agree. I'm just saying that we need to be cognizant of what has already happened. And we need to be, we need to be cognizant and respectful of those situations that we've already approved without a short-term rental ordinance. That there's been interpretations made from various people on what fits and what doesn't. And that's all I'm saying. That's why we're discussing this right now
Right.
openly, so that's out there. So when you do get into ad hoc committee, or we do, or we're expected to give some guidelines on what seems reasonable, which I'm not opposed or against. I'm just saying that it's imperative that we are transparent also. Because already some things have been, a lot of things.
So let me ask you this, just for the sake, because we need to continue.
Yes.
Do you want me to schedule another work session on this specifically before we get the ad hoc together?
No, not necessarily.
Then if you would, then just provide Eddie with the direction of questions. That way he can get with the ad hoc and have that. And then we'll have the follow through on everything, because I just want to make sure that we have, I want the process, but I also want, and the communication to be key more than anything, just as it's noted. But, for sake of everything, if you feel that there's a need for, any of you feel there's a need for another work session with us specifically right now to go through this, you need to let me know and I'll schedule that. There's no issues with that by any means. But for the sake of fairness for our applicants that are going through right now and our process that we have, we need to move forward, right? So with our time frame. So if we need to have another work session, let's have another work session. Otherwise, get the information to Eddie or to myself, and then we'll get that process going with the ad hoc. And then, like I say, we'll get it eventually and follow
That's what I
through.
wanted to put on the table right now for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Because that has happened already, right?
Most
Without
definitely.
ordinance. So we need to be just cognizant and respectful and of that situation.
Great. And we will probably have another work session coming up as well, because of the personnel handbook, which is another section on there for section E, that we didn't even get to touch at all today. And that's going to be probably another big discussion as well, right? What I would ask is, because there's I'm going to email you the document that shows the specific red lines, because it only showed in the printout here. It only showed the little notes doc on there, so it doesn't show all the suggested changes. I'll email you that copy, that way you have that. There's not a whole lot of change, and I was gonna go through all of that were suggested changes. A lot of it was format more than anything, but if you see something in there that you don't, that's in that handbook that you wanna see changed, please make sure that you're emailing it to Gloria or emailing it to myself. That way we can get it sent up to the municipal league, have them, because they're the ones that are working on all of this, have them take a look at it, review it, because especially if you have the experience with it and because there's some things that are in there that need to be fully addressed, that even I felt like some of the questions that I brought up, they weren't addressed, so but I need that from all of you. That way we can continually have this discussion and make the productive work session, especially when we get to that one, which will probably take multiple work sessions for us to get that to where we need it before we actually fully adopt it, right? So just on that. So if you can do that same, send an email right now to Gloria. You can CC myself in there, and then I'll get it up to Municipal League to review. Okay?
Because I did have quite a few in written.
Yeah.
that would
There's
be
a
great.
bunch, because I'm still in there going, whew. Okay,
Yeah, if you could email them to us so we can look at it, review it, that would be great.
Yeah,
definitely.
that we were not,
And the firework ordinance,
Okay.
please.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Let's take a quick 2-minute break to reset and
For our next.
hop into the next real quick.
Okay.
Don't you dare, Siri.
the public hearing,
Next.
Right now, yes.
yeah,
So that's why I'm trying to.
yeah, I know.
What's that?
From here.
Up here.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Do you know about that?
Don't worry, you'll be in full view.
Well.
These ones are all fresh water.
Yeah, well, I'm retired, but
It just works like that. If you move it around and do different flexible, like that flexibility makes it work, right?
Yeah, that's smart.
Can I ask you, which one is it?
I know. You
Transfer my father's side. I'm holding that.
Police bikes.
It was hot in here earlier. Now it feels good.
It's because I brought extra water
Just in case, because you never know. At the end of the day.
Pretty sure.
See, look, I'm from the center.
Right in center.
Pretty sure that.
I gotta hide. Let it be Adriana.
I need like space, like you're zoomed in.
Any of the
Just make sure you blow your nose.
agendas printed for tonight?
Yeah, I have winter.
Oh, just the big ones like this?
Yes.
Oh, that's.
That's what they are.
If they were gonna be, if they were gonna, no, since we were.
How are you?
That's right, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, no, I just didn't pick up that paper clip. I got no trash, but I don't know where to get it.
Thank you, sir.
That's what I was. Now there's a pen. I can't reach that far.
This is too tight.
It's gonna have to, yeah. It's gonna have to stay there.
Huh?
The pen and the paper clip.
Just a little bit. It's okay.
Should this be lower?
Oh.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I thought we were close.
We were outside. We were like dying. You need a.
That's the unfortunate part.
Correct, how are you?
I was in love with the same way, but after we were around, so well, that made that choice. Oh, you know?
Everybody? All right, since we have our board here, we'll get this meeting underway. Today is Monday, July 8th. The time is now 5:45 in the evening. We're here in the Mesilla Town Hall for the Board of Trustees meeting, and that this is for a public hearing. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is roll call and determination of a quorum. Gloria, if you would, please.
Mayor Hernandez,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Present.
Trustee Cadena,
Present.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
Present.
Trustee Nevares,
Present.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Fantastic, thank you very much. This evening, we're hearing a public hearing for a case on a liquor license establishment. With that in mind, if we can have a motion to exit the regular schedule or regular meeting that we're in right now to enter our public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Nevares. And if there is no discussion or objection, we'll be exiting the regular meeting, entering the public hearing. Seeing as there is none, the time is now 5:47, and we will be in our public hearing now. Eddie, if you wouldn't mind giving a background on the case, please.
Yes, good evening, Board of Trustees. This hearing is for an alcohol license request, number 1241. The location is at 1701 Calle del Mercado, suite number 1. It was submitted by Heart of the Desert Pistachio and Wine, requested approval for a wine grower off-site liquor license. The zone is commercial, general commercial. Background analysis is the Heart of the Desert Pistachio and Wine has recently moved from a previous location, 2350 Calle del Principal, to its current location, which is at 1701 Calle del Mercado, Suite 1. They are requesting to allow wine tasting and sales as it did in its previous location. Heart of the Desert has been in the community for over 10 years. They are a positive impact in our community. There are no records on file of any violations during the 10+ year stretch. New Mexico Regulations and Licensing Department requires all locations that sell alcohol to be licensed to the state. It requires a hearing to be held by the governing body within 45 days of that notification be published in a local newspaper twice, with the first notice published at least 30 days before the hearing. Calamity is required to notify New Mexico Regulation License Department's Alcohol and Beverage Control Division, which is ABC, within 30 days of the decision and outcome of the hearing. They fail to notify ABC of the decision within the allotted time frame, the director may issue the license. Heart of the Desert, Pistachio and Wine have been approved by the zoning permit to accommodate changes of the property to meet business needs. Amendments to the show new location of the business license has also been approved. Supporting documents on your package, you will find an application, a pre-approval letter from New Mexico Regulations Licensing Department, a site map, a zoning permit approval that was approved by the planning and zoning, an extension hearing date, which I requested through the state of New Mexico, and a statement of zoning, proof of newspaper notification where it was publicized at least twice 30 days before the hearing, and some information of New Mexico Regulations and License Department regarding the 30-foot rule when it comes to church and schools. Department comments, proposed license is in the commercial zone. It meets New Mexico RLD 300-foot rule requirements. Business is in a good standing in the community. Emphasis is on the license is for an off-site wine grower liquor license. The hearing meets all requirements set by the New Mexico RLD ABC division, and proposed request meets all Mesilla Town Code requirements. I recommend approval. I stand by for any questions, or the applicant is here tonight in case I'm not able to answer any of the questions, or in case you do feel like you need to ask them any questions.
Thank you, Eddie. With this is a public hearing, so we're just going to be hearing comments from the public or anything that maybe you heard there. And trustees, I would ask you to refrain from asking questions until this is actually held in front of you during the regularly scheduled meeting. With that in mind, Eddie, before I turn it over to the public, did you receive any public comments that were by email, by chance on this?
No, I did not.
Fantastic, thank you, sir. At this time, I'll open up the podium to the public who may want to give public input as far as it pertains to this public hearing. And if you would state your name for the record.
Mary Helen Raichi, 2231 Calle de Santiago. I just want to say that we rented to Heart of the Desert for a number of years. They were excellent renters. They treated their wine tasting and their selling of their wine in a very professional way. And I was sad to see them go, but they're in Mercado now, so I hope they do well.
Thank you, Ms. Raichi.
Susan Kerber. I just wanted to confirm that case 061823, which is to build a 30.
Susan, this is for the liquor license hearing right now. Not quite yet for public comments on everything else.
So hold on to that one.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment as far as it pertains to the public hearing? All right. Seeing as there is none, we'll move forward. With that, if I can have a motion to exit the public hearing and re-enter our regularly scheduled meeting.
So,
Second.
It's been moved by Trustee Nevada, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick. And if there is no discussion or objection, we will exit our public hearing and re-enter our regularly scheduled meeting. The time is now 5:53, and we are back into our regularly scheduled meeting. And with that, the only other item, as far as it pertains to the public hearing, is to adjourn. So if there is no objection, the public hearing that was scheduled for today has been adjourned. Moving straight in, as we said, we would follow immediately following the public hearing. We will start our regularly scheduled meeting. So with that in mind, today is Monday, July 8th. The time is now 5:54 in the evening. We're here at the Mesilla Town Hall for our regularly scheduled board meeting. The first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. So once more, if you would please stand with me and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next order of business is roll call and determination of a quorum. Gloria, if you would, please.
Mayor Hernandez,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Present.
Trustee Cadena,
Present.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
Present.
Trustee Nevares,
Present.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Fantastic, thank you. Next item on the agenda is changes and approval of the agenda. I do have two changes to make based upon our planning and zoning meeting a little bit earlier today. That would be to remove the approval of PZHAC sign case 061853 from the consent agenda to the regular agenda and be heard first. And then to remove under action items for consideration, items B, which is PZHAC case business 1229 for 2450 Calle de Principal, and to remove action item D for PZHC case 061823 for 2450 Calle de Principal.
Mr. Mayor, I was gonna actually make a motion to, for our job description approvals, to approve them one at a time individually instead of as a department, as a whole. So I would like to make that change.
Okay.
Need a second?
Yes, if I can have is that a full motion
Yes,
for?
yes, to approve each job description for each department individually.
And then with the recommended changes as well?
Yes, please.
And second?
Second.
Motion on the floor by trustee Johnson Burek, seconded by trustee Nevares. And that is for the changes as they've been noted, as well as which for the removal and moving of certain items on the agenda, and then for each individual job description to be heard individually in each department. If there are no other changes or objection, the agenda will be approved as it has been amended. Seeing as there is none, the agenda is approved as amended. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda, which includes the BOT minutes for 6/25, as well as the approval of PZHAC sign case 061845. I can have a motion.
So. Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. The vote will be heard as approved unless there is objection or discussion.
I do have a friendly amendment to make to the minutes, Mr. Mayor. I think it's page 092. Under item number 5, line number 15, it misquotes me. It states that trustee Johnson Burek recommended advising the vendors on what to sell and what is allowed. I did not state that. I stated that it has not, in the years that I recall, it has not been recommended that the vendors have been approached as to what to sell and what not to sell. So I just want that clarified for the record, please.
Gloria, if you can note that, please. Are there any other changes to the consent agenda with the friendly amendment? Seeing as there is none, because there was a motion or a note on that, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please. on
Trustee
that.
Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Great. Thank you all very much for your approval of the consent agenda. That does include the minutes as they have been amended or with the suggested amendment, as well as approval of PZHAC sign case 061845. Next item on the agenda is public input on the cases being heard this evening. That's where we'll allow the public to come up and give input on the cases being heard. So if you would, please step to the podium and state your name for the record. So Susan. Or Mrs. Kruger, I'm sorry.
I just want to confirm that case 061823, which is a request to build a structure in the historic commercial zone, that had gone through a review. It's chapter 33. I just want to confirm that.
Thank you, Susan.
Just to confirm it before it's approved, so that we know that these requests in the historic zone have gone through the review that's set up for all cases of all construction in both historic zones, and that's chapter 33. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Kruger. Is there any other public comment on the cases this evening? Not on this one yet. It'll be at the one at the end of the meeting. All right? Sorry.
No worries. Thank you.
Any other comment on the public or on the cases being heard this evening? Seeing as there is none, we'll move forward with business. First item being heard this evening is approval of PZHAC sign case 061853. This is for 2030 Calle de Parian, submitted by Maya Vaca.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Johnson Burek, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick. And we'll open it up for discussion. And I just want to say with this, just to open up for Eddie as well, this one was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously, but with conditions. And that condition was specifically that the sign not be a wall projecting sign, that it is a sign that is directly hung and installed on the building itself. Do you have anything else to add to that?
The reason why it was that condition is because there really there is a full requirement that requires 7 feet above ground, bottom of the base. And really the reason is base that would be accommodated with that part of the code. Therefore, although the applicant at the beginning did request a wall sign instead of projecting sign, so I don't feel that's going to be an issue with the applicant.
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, all right, and then she, you wanna?
Yeah, so it needs to be against the wall or it can come out, and there's a beam up there, so it wasn't gonna clear 7 feet. But, I figured out a way to do that with the metal rack, secure it up there, so we have to normal contractor install it. So it can be like a swinging side, that would be, okay.
The recommendation by the commission was to have it on the wall, rather than.
Okay, alrighty.
All right,
Yes.
thank you. Anything else? Trustees, questions? Because we do have a motion on the floor and a
So
second.
just for what she said it wasn't gonna reach the 7 foot because of the beam. So does it have to be a hang?
No, it's gonna
No?
be against the wall. The
Okay.
wall and the projection signs are not, the same thing. The projection sign
Gotcha.
comes out. the door.
If there aren't any other questions, Gloria, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Great, thank you very much for the approval of PZHAC, sign case 061853, as it has been, made with conditions by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Next item on the agenda is approval of liquor license establishment, license 1241 for Heart of the Desert at 1701 Calle Mercado, Suite 1.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Johnson Burek, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick. I'll open it up for discussion at this time. Seeing as there is no discussion, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Great, thank you very much for the approval of liquor license, for the liquor establishment license 1241 for Heart of the Desert. Next item on the agenda is approval for PZHAC business, license 1245 for 2030 Calle Parian. If I can have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by trustee Johnson Burek. I'll open it up for discussion. Any? Seeing as there is none, roll call vote. Gloria, please.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Great, thank you for approval of PZHAC business license 1245 for 2030 Calle Parian. Next item on the agenda is PZHC case 061850 for 2550 Calle San Albino, submitted by Irma Chavez May.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by trustee Johnson Burek. We'll open it up for discussion. Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Nevares,
Yes.
trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Great, thank you very much for approval of PZHAC, case 06150 for 2550 Calle San Albino. Next item on the agenda is approval of resolution 2025-1 for destruction of records.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by trustee Johnson Burek. I'll open up for discussion. Any? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Thank you very much for that approval of resolution 2025-1. Next item on the agenda is resolution 2025-2 for capital asset plan.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by trustee Johnson, sorry,
Either one.
trustee Cadena.
Trustee Cadena.
All right, I'll open it up for discussion if any. Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
trustee Nevares,
Yes.
trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Fantastic, thank you very much for approval of resolution 2025-02. Next item on the agenda is contract, it's for approval for contract agreement for social services for the EMS department.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Johnson Burek, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick. I'll open it up for discussion at this point in time. Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
trustee Nevares,
Yes.
trustee Cadena,
Yes.
trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Thank you very much for approval of the pharmaceutical services contract agreement. Next up is approval of contract agreement for DCA, which is the Department of Cultural Affairs Community Center rental.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, second by Trustee Cadena. I'll open it up for discussion if any. Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Fantastic, thank you very much for approval of the contract agreement for Department of Cultural Affairs for their rental of the community center. Next item on the agenda is approval of the 2025-2026 salary grades.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. I will open it up for discussion. The one thing that I would like to say on the salary grades here, with your approval of this, is that we look at the retro pay for that pay going to the first of the year, of our fiscal year, which is July 1. Probably a good idea.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make an amendment to that approval to retroactively start this pay scale on July 1st, the first of our fiscal year.
Second.
There's a motion to amend the salary grade to be retroactive to the first of the fiscal year by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Nevares. I will open that amendment, open up for discussion. Jenny? All right, Gloria, roll call vote on the amendment itself.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
trustee Nevares,
Yes.
trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Thank you very much. Now we'll bring it back to the original case, the 2025-26 salary grades as they've been presented. Any other discussion? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Nevares,
Yes.
trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for the approval of our 25-26 salary grades with the amendment of those being retroactively paid to the first part of this fiscal year. As it's been noted, we will be hearing all of the job descriptions individually and as rather than as through the department. There are a couple of thank you for those of you that reached out to me with some of the specifics. Once we get into those that might require specific changes, as you all have reached out to me, I'll make sure to note those changes as they've been suggested. So the first up for approval is in our finance department. That is for our deputy clerk position.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Trustee Johnson Burek, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick. I will open it up for discussion.
Mr. Mayor, and my apologies, there was the third thing I wanted to mention to you in my earlier email. For these job descriptions, we have the salary range on each job description. It's probably more appropriate to put the salary grade or the pay grade, which is, the A11 through D44, because your job posting should have the beginning, mid-range, and max range. So I would just offer that as a suggestion. The other thing is, as I've mentioned in previous discussions, I just still feel that the finance department might be top-heavy with town clerk treasurer, deputy clerk, and deputy treasurer. I see some overlapping job duties amongst all three of those positions. And, but those are my comments at this point. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the deputy clerk position in specific?
I heard a question on the qualifications, probably for a valid driver's license is required for occasional travel. I'm just having a hard time getting my hands around that. It's just, I could see if it was a position that required travel, as part of the top, of the job, but this is for occasional travel.
I think they use the town
The town
vehicle
vehicle.
Okay, so for
for
that
posts,
purpose.
for
Okay,
errands.
yeah, okay. That's-
Yeah.
Okay.
And that certification is required as well.
Yes, I
to get
understand
that.
now. I think that was clarified. Thank you.
I will note that on the salary range will be changed to salary grade throughout all job descriptions. So that will be an easy blanket across. Okay. Any other discussion on deputy clerk as it's been shown? Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Merritt,
Yes.
Trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burr,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Great, thank you very much for approval of the deputy town clerk job description. Next up is the deputy treasurer job description. If I can have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. And with this, as I noted before, salary range will be adjusted to meet the salary grade. Is there any other discussion on this position? Seeing as there is
I'm
none,
sorry, yeah, I was just gonna say again, as I mentioned earlier, that the overlapping duties between this position and the town clerk treasurer. So, that's all I have. Thank you.
any other discussion? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burr,
No.
Trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merritt,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 3 yeses and 1 no.
Thank you very much for approval of the deputy treasurer position. Next job description is the grants administrator. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Trustee Johnson Burek, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick. Open it up for discussion with the note the salary range will be changed to salary. Thank you. Any discussion?
I just had a question on the qualifications, because it says that the certification in grant writing or grant management is preferred. Is that pretty much a state of that type of profession? So they don't need to have the certification? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burr,
Yes.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merritt,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Great, thank you very much for approval of the grants administrator position. Next up is approval of the town clerk treasurer position.
So moved.
Second.
Have been moved by Trustee Johnson Burek, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick. And we'll open it up for discussion. There again, with the note that salary range will be changed to salary grade.
Mr. Mayor, something I failed to mention earlier, I appreciate that you moved that direct report to under this position. I can't remember whether it was for the deputy clerk or the deputy treasurer, but I was pleased to see this.
Well, that's one thing that I will note, trustees, is that your recommendations from our last conversation have all been implemented and put in here. Hopefully you note those recommendations as they have been acutely, I should say, adjusted. All right. Any other changes or recommendations or discussion for the town clerk position? Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Thank you very much for approval of the new job description for the town clerk treasurer. Next up is our utilities payments clerk.
So moved.
Second.
And motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. I will open it up for discussion. Seeing as there is no discussion, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
Yes.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Thank you very much for approval of the job description for the utility payments clerk. Next item on here, moving into the marshal's department. I have up first is our codes and ACO officer.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena. I will open it up for discussion.
For under qualifications, were we not gonna have a minimum of maybe 1 year experience dealing with such a position? I mean, it is asking for, knowledge of animal behavior, familiarity with municipal codes. I mean, there's a series of duties and responsibilities that probably, would be gained either from even volunteer experience, like with our interns, just a thought. And again, I didn't catch this from our last go around. So just my thoughts. I'll let the marshal wants to weigh in, or yourself, Mayor.
Definitely. That's an easy adjustment, especially going through, we just went through and hired this position recently and did the interview process, had quite a few selection of interviewees. Everybody had different sets of qualifications, and that's kind of what I was going off of with this and with Ben when we were going through all of that. But it's an easy thing for us to do. The one thing that I will also note, as it was brought up, is that in this position, the direct report to will be directly to the sergeant, not to the lieutenant and the town marshal, following hierarchy within the department, if you will. So it's a direct single supervisor in here in specific. Is there any other changes or suggestions to the codes and animal control officer? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
Yes.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Thank you very much for approval of that position, and I will make sure to make those adjustments as they've been noted. Next item on the agenda under the Marshal's Department or position is for Deputy Level 1. And if I can have a motion there.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. And with the note in that, just before we open it up for full discussion, directly reports to Sergeant only, and then salary range is salary grade. Any other discussion on Deputy 1? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
Yes.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Great, thank you very much for approval of our deputy position 1. Next item is approval for deputy position 2, or deputy 2 within, not position 2, deputy 2 within the Marshal's Department.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. There again in discussion, reports directly to Sergeant, salary grade versus range. Any other discussion?
Can I just ask you, I get it, the chain of command, but we're such a small community that there's always a sergeant on, that they wouldn't have to like report to a lieutenant or the marshal directly if they had an issue.
Mr. Marshall, if you would, please.
My hope is Sergeant Detective Danny Garcia is technically a sergeant, that's the rank and authority of it. He usually works day shift. So what our discretion has been, if he's in the office, call him, or if it's daytime hours, call him. Acting Sergeant Lourdes Hernandez is currently on graveyards. She'll be moving back to the day school during the day. Our hope at one point is to have a day shift sergeant and a graveyard sergeant. But right now we're making it work with, they're contacting Danny. And then graveyard will contact Acting Sergeant Hernandez. So that's where we're at right now. And I always have an open door policy. So if I'm there, they're not getting in trouble for skipping chain of command. If it's a question I can ask instead of them waking up.
Right, that's just what I was thinking, is that there would be whoever is in charge that day and there's an I'm thinking emergency come up and they need instructions, right?
Because the lieutenant will be day shift and myself is always day shift. So we have open door policy. So they're not going to get in trouble for skipping chain of command.
Okay.
Well, and I think that the point of that for the reports too, just for clarification, trustee, was just so that in this position, a deputy 2 knows directly who they report to, who they can communicate to, in light of an open door policy within the department. I mean, within the entire town. But.
And that means the sergeant would also be, all these cases and the people they report to, which I should have asked this from the beginning, that would be the evaluator of that person.
That is correct, and that's the
So that
primary.
we're not,
That is another distinct reason on why. So this would be the person who does the full evaluation of these individuals.
The sergeant will handle that. The lieutenant will handle the sergeants and all that.
okay, and down the line, unless there's an.
Yeah, that's it. Emergency.
And for emergencies, it's an open door policy.
Yes.
Just checking.
Great. Any other discussion? Deputy 2. Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
trustee Cadena,
Yes.
trustee Nevadas,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Thank you very much for approval of Deputy 2. Next position on our agenda is Deputy 3.
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Trustee Johnson Burek, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick. There again with direct report to Sergeant, salary grade versus range. And is there any other discussion or question?
Can I just ask, are these 1, 2, and 3 comparable to what the city or, as far as years of service required before they, like, for instance, if we wanted to hire a deputy 3 right off from the LCPD or somebody, it's comparable kind of?
Yeah, it'd be comparable to
Experience-wise?
years of service and experience wise.
Okay.
In the past, it's always been deputy 1, you were on probation. Deputy 2, you passed your year of probation and here's a little pay raise. Deputy 3 gives an extra level of in-house, you can move up, but it also covers any laterals that come with us 8 to 10 years experience. They're not starting at deputy 1 pay when they have the experience of deputy 3 or even a sergeant.
Which is,
So it's, it'd be comparable for laterals coming with years of service.
okay, just wondering if we would fit that.
Any other discussion? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Nevadas,
Yes.
trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Thank you very much for approval of the Deputy 3 position. Next on the agenda is approval of the lieutenant position.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Trustee Johnson Burek, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick. There again, this one is direct report to the marshal, the town marshal. Salary range changed to salary grade. Any other discussion? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Merritt,
Yes.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Thank you very much for approval of the lieutenant position. Next up is approval of the sergeant position for the marshal's department.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. There again, in opening discussion, direct report to the lieutenant, lieutenant and marshal salary grade versus range on that. No other discussion? Sorry.
That's okay.
Gloria, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merritt,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Thank you very much for approval of the sergeant position. Next up for approval is approval of the town marshal position.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to abstain from the vote.
Thank you, Trustee Merrick, for recognizing abstention for the, to this vote. With that, town marshal changes salary grade versus range. And if there are any other changes to this for discussion. Seeing as there are none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Trustee Cadena. Yes. Mayor, the roll call is 3 yeses.
Thank you very much for the approval of the town marshal position. The one thing that I will note for the marshal's department is that we do not, which you'll notice as we move into the next department, we do not have a detective job description in here presently. That job description is, I'll work on that with the marshal coming up. That position is presently a, oh my God, why did I lose it? Contract employee. There we go. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it. See, my right hand person. That's what I say. Left hand person in this case, right? You know, so, but that one, because it is a contract employee presently, we'll work on that position and have that for you. And so with that, we'll move forward. Approval of job descriptions for the fire department, fire captain job description.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Trustee Johnson Burek, second by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick. There again, salary grade versus range. And is there any other discussion?
I do, Mr. Mayor, the classification, it's listed part-time to full-time. So I have a concern with that because we place them in a pay grade that's not applicable to part-time and full-time. And then, of course, with Fair Labor Standards Act, it's easier to say it than it is to use the acronym right now. So anyway, but so I'm just concerned with that. I think it needs to be one or the other. And
Greg, will you come up and, or Mr. Chief, will you come up and address that real quick? Because there is reasoning behind that as well.
Mayor and board. So one of the things that would like to have is the possibility of having down the road, right? This isn't happening anymore. If I had 3 part-time people in those positions, one running each shift, that then eventually we can move to making them full-time positions. not just having one person, we would have better coverage. The other side of that is that we would also hopefully encourage them to continue to volunteer. So we would also get a little bit of help in that way with those part-timers. But the long-term goal is to have a full-time position. But just having one is gonna be, it doesn't have the coverage that we would hope for. With just one full-time position and 3 part-timers down the road would give us more coverage.
I think in that case, if that's the case, then the job description for which we're going to eventually post for right now, probably should stay part-time with it, and then gathering, because here, I'm just not comfortable part-time to full-time.
Some of the thing that we're still waiting on is we did apply for that state
Right.
safer grant type thing, and I don't know when we're gonna hear an answer on that. So that would help if we got that money, that we would actually be able to put 3 part-timers with that money to build into the full-time. I know that the plan right now is to budget for 1 FTE is what the pay is, but can we spread that out? So
And that's the ultimate question, I guess, to you all trustees, is when we look at it with our budget and what we budgeted for one, as fire chief,
Full-time.
1 full-time position. But in working through all of it, the inner workings of the department, 2 part-time positions with that 1 full-time pay would probably help out more than 1 full-time position as a whole. But also, we want to potentially look at, as Fire Chief mentioned, is that, a minimum in the future, having 3, because that would give us a greater standard of receiving more funding as well, number 1, or the funding potential. But the other part is having the support within the department where we can move it up to full-time positions over a period of time, if that makes sense. But this position in specific, if you recall, and as it's already been noted, is only going to be fulfilled if we receive the money from the SAFER grant. And that's that stepped grant where we actually received the pay as 1 lump sum for the 3-year period. It's our job in our finance department to adequately show how that money is being utilized over the 3-year period of time.
Yeah, and just, again, when you write a job description, you gotta be specific. It should be either a part-time or a full-time.
So the question is then, would you all be, because we did budget for a full-time position, would you be okay with the thought of 2 part-time positions for that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why when Chief said he was looking at really wanting 3 part-time. Absolutely, yeah. I'd support that.
Any other discussion on that or thoughts? I want thoughts all across the board, trust me.
Well, I mean, I can understand, but at the same time, we did say full-time. It may be that a full-timer works out better. I mean, for now, if that's what happens, I don't know. I just hate to not have that option too, in my view. In business I was in, we did kind of move back and forth from part-time to full-time under the same job description. And we also, because they're non-exempt, it's an hourly wage. So if it's a 3/4, ends up being 3/4 time, or something happens, we have the flexibility in the job description to do it. But I'll go either way. I just don't see a big time problem with part-time or full-time. 2 full-time myself, because it gives the department flexibility to really try to meet their needs with the candidates that they have, right? You might want to say, God, this person just really fits the bill, and I'd rather have them on full-time, and they're going to work 3 to 11 or something, and to cover 2 shifts, let's say, or 11 to, or 7 to, I don't know how you work your stuff, but just in nursing shifts and in public schools, I've seen all of that happen, and it just gives you more flexibility instead of having to go back in and change a description, a classification, but I understand that it might, so either way, I just would rather build in some flexibility than not have flexibility. For, especially for emergency situations.
And I guess too, my concern is when you post this job, and maybe somebody's only wanting part-time, and then you're gonna tell them, no, you're gonna be working full-time. Or maybe you've got someone wanting full-time, and they see, oh, well, it says part-time, so maybe I'm only gonna be working. It's not real clear to the applicant.
We're kind of in a limbo spot right now. waiting to
That's
see if we get
exactly
this money, right? So
right.
I totally understand.
Yeah, I'm glad, and a couple of other things, the qualifications, I really like that you changed them. I think this is the one that had or was it the 18 years of age, or the whatever is in state statute, was that the one? Hey, I'm glad that's been removed, and then, because it is in state statute. And then maybe we just put, it's kind of 1 to 2 years supervisory experience or leading teams required. Just a thought, required. We've got 1 to 2 years supervisory experience or leading teams. It doesn't state whether it's required or preferred. So maybe we make that more specific. And that's all I have.
The other, and I suggested, can we do a part-time and a full-time?
Job description, absolutely. Oh,
And then
here I
just-
am talking with the
Well, it would be, all you have to just do exactly the same one.
Exactly.
Just one is part-time, one is full-time, and then depending on how we have to fill it out.
But you might have a candidate that does say, well, I'll start part-time, but I'd like to go full-time. And it gives you that opportunity.
Or
But,
we say, yeah, now we have the funding, we have the
right, and
the
so you
GRT
need
to
to
cover
say,
it and say, hey, you're part-time, or would you like to be full-time, and just move you over into this other
yeah,
job
so
description.
identical job descriptions with 2 different classifications would work too,
I think that's a good
to
one.
clarify the situation so they're not confused. But I just think people in emergency services and nursing services and all those things that work, potentially work 24 hours, if, always have that in mind, right? Sometimes you're full-time, sometimes you're 80 hours of overtime, right? So, it just depends. But whatever would work better for you to give you some flexibility.
You don't want to know what's going on.
Well, we heard that you'd like 3 full-time, around-the-clock private deputies. We heard that. We hear
Trustee
you.
Nevada.
I think it's a good idea to have 2 job descriptions, and that allows you for the options that you would like to have, so that you can,
So we'll split the job description, part-time and full-time,
yes.
but only hire based upon what's been allocated. Now, trust me, he's gonna find funding for that. He's got 34 people he's ready to hire.
Could have applied for all of that.
No, but we got to figure out how we're gonna pay them in 3 years.
That's what I'm saying.
Doesn't work that way. I know I opened Pandora's box there, but any other discussion on this? All right, we'll split those job descriptions in there, and then changing their qualifications for leading and supervisory to likely preferred over required, but I'll let fire chief determine that specific on that. Any other discussion? Gloria, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mary,
Yes.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Thank you very much for approval of the fire captain position. Next up. And I didn't add that one, wasn't it? I meant to. So you don't have the fire chief in here, so I'll have to have that on the next meeting, unfortunately. So I do apologize on that. one oversight. Sorry about that, Chief.
Yeah.
All right. Next on there is Public Works Department. This is, first up is for our custodian janitor position.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. We'll open it up with discussion. This one is salary grade versus range. Also, here, that's it. Yeah, any other discussion? Sorry.
The physical demands, because we've talked about it with some of the other job descriptions about the lifting. And we have lifting, pushing, pulling,
Yes.
because that's what I'm more familiar with than doing those.
On all of the public works positions in specific?
Or we have that weight,
Whenever you, for all the job descriptions, when there's a requirement.
The
yes.
weight requirement. Yeah. Okay.
Good call. I didn't catch that.
Any other discussion on this one? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek?
Yes.
Trustee Nevadas?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Thank you very much for approval of our custodian and janitor job description. Next up is approval of our grounds maintenance worker 1.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. Changes on this one, all will have a direct report to the Public Works Director in specific, salary grade. And then on this one in specific, we're looking at the under the qualifications, adding 0 to 1 year of preferred experience. Is there any other discussion?
Same thing with the physical demands.
Yes, that'll go through, I'll add that to all of them.
Okay, thank you.
If there is no other discussion, Gloria, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Nevadas?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek?
Yes.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Great, thank you very much for approval of grounds worker or maintenance worker 1. Next up is grounds maintenance worker 2.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. There again, reports to Public Works Director. Grade, we'll have lifting weights under qualifications. We're gonna also add 2 or more years of work-related preferred experience. Any other discussion? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnson Burek?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick?
Yes.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Trustee Nevadas?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Thank you very much for approval of the grounds maintenance worker 2. Next up is approval of our Public Works Director.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. There again with the same changes as it's been noted on all the other ones. Is there any other discussion? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Johnson Burek?
Yes.
Trustee Nevadas?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick?
Yes.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Thank you very much for approval of the new Public Works Director. job description as it's been proposed. Next up is next position up is still under Public Works Department, Water Operator 1.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. Open it up for discussion with this one directly reporting to the Public Works Director, and then those noted changes as it has been said on the previous ones.
Mr. Mayor, I just, don't know if you went on this one as well. I know there's different certifications required for Water Operator 1 and Water Operator 2. I'm wondering if we want to differentiate between level 1 and level 2 by adding the minimum years of experience required or preferred. I mean, your wastewater 2 has it has a level 2 certification or the ability to obtain. So they could still come in as a water level 1. I don't know, I might be making it more difficult. I don't know.
I can get with Lorenzo and we can figure that out. And make those changes with years of experience for both of those positions. Any other discussion on that or questions? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Okay, thank you very much for approval of the Water Operator 1 position. Next up is Water Operator 2 position.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. There again with the same Public Works Director report to salary range, the lifting, pulling, and then the look into the minimum years of experience required as it was on Water Operator 1. Any other suggestions or changes or recommendations? Seeing as there's none, Gloria, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
Yes.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Thank you very much for approval of Water Operator Level 2. Next up, we have a Water Operator Level 2, which also serves as the team lead position for the Public Works Department.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. There again, the noted changes noted on this one. This is the position that is similar to our current foreman position. It's just a team leader within the department to help and assist in supervising the team as necessary.
Mr. Mayor, I guess under qualifications, for the supervisory experience, prior experience in a supervisory or team leading role preferred. Perhaps we again establish a minimum years of supervisory experience required or preferred, either one.
Okay.
And as much as I've read and reviewed these over the last several days, I just didn't catch that. So, because I know I wanted to get you stuff earlier.
I appreciate that. Thank
I
you.
apologize.
Is there any other discussion on this position? These changes will be made as noted as well. If there's no other discussion, Gloria, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
Yes.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Thank you very much for approval of that team lead position within the Public Works Department. Next up is our new department, Community Economic Development Department. First on the agenda is the Community and Economic Development Director.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Buer. We'll open it up for discussion. Noted changes will be made as more on other positions. Seeing as there is no further discussion, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Nevadas.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burr.
Yes.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Great, thank you very much for approval of the Community and Economic Development Director. That's a mouthful, I'll tell you. Next up is our Community Events Coordinator position.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Buer. I'll open it up for discussion. And with noted changes as previous other job descriptions being completed. Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Nevadas.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burr.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Thank you very much for approval of the new Community Events Coordinator position. Next job description and last job description being heard this evening is for our Historic Preservation Specialist.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Buer. I'll open it up for discussion. Okay. Same notes being made and changed as on the previous job descriptions. Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burr.
Yes.
Trustee Nevadas.
Yes.
Trustee Merrick. Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Great. Thank you very much for approval of the Historic Preservation Specialist within the Community and Economic Development Department. One last note on that specific position. That one will be funded through our CLG certification once we receive that one as well. Or that's the plan, either that one or the other position in there. I just want to say before we move on, thank you very much for approval of these for the job descriptions in these positions. I look forward to getting this taken care of with the town. Next item.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I just want to extend again, another thank you to the team, staff, everyone who worked on these. These can be very daunting. And so, everyone did a great job.
We have a great team, that's for sure. Next up on the agenda is public input. This is the time where we now give the public the opportunity to speak on anything that you want to talk about this evening. So please come to the podium and state your name for the record. And I appreciate your patience, and it's only been a couple hours, right?
Mayor Chief. Again, 2231 Calle de Santiago. I just want to thank the mayor for meeting with short-term rental owners and listening to our concerns, and then our planning and zoning for tabling this until further study. So I want to thank you for that. I also have a concern about a property, and everybody knows this property. It's between Calle de Principal and Calle de San Albino down south. And this property is getting worse by the minute. I know the marshal, hopefully he'll comment on this, but they have 2 dogs that I thought were gone, and the dogs are back and they're loose, and they charge after those of us that are walking or neighbors. I have a neighbor, a good friend that I went to school with across the street. She doesn't want to come and speak because she's shy, but she has real concerns because she's living right across the street. There seems to be a lot of cars that are being worked on there. I know you all are, most of you are aware of this. There's some people coming out of those rentals that are questionable as to why they're coming in and out and walking around Mesilla. I'm concerned for the safety of the neighborhood, and I just am hoping maybe something can be done. I did see the codes gentleman that kind of drove by and then drove around the block the other way. And I don't know if there's anything that can be done, but I know that there's been the owner of, or the person who's running the complex pounds on the door demanding rent from renters, and it's just not a great thing, and the condition of the property is terrible. So I think most of us are aware of that. What can we do?
Thank you, Ms. Ritchie. Any other public comment?
Mayor, trustees, Jimmy Nevadas, thank you for having us tonight. I want to thank the fire chief for proposing this. I think it's a good thing. The thing is, it's going to increase our sales, increase our GRTs, because we're competing with Bowlings, as he said earlier, or Anthony charges a $3 fee. And it's some of the customers don't want to pay that $20 or whatever the fee is on the higher sell items. I want to propose a couple of things along the line with what the chief has said. One thing though that's really important to me is that this is a biannual fee, and it applies equally to everyone. And that's because the sale's only twice a year. I mean, primarily. We keep our 6 employees all year long, but it's really an expense the rest of the year. It's not profit. So that fee needs to be biannual, twice a year, and that needs to apply fairly to everybody. The chief instituting what he did this year and helping us with the fees actually increased the fees this year. And so we propose a $9,000 a year fee, $4,500 biannually. And we feel that that would be fair for the city. That would also help the chief enforce these laws, because we don't want to be a burden to the town or the chief and in having him have trouble and not have money to enforce the regulations. So we want to make sure that it's fair. We're willing to go back in a couple of years and review the numbers with the chief after that and see if we need to increase that as well. But we feel like right now $9,000 a year is a very fair amount for the fee. And I stand for questions if any of you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Nevadas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, trustees. Catherine Walkinshaw, 2134 Calle de Principal. I've been sending you emails. Thank you for reading my emails on the short-term rental ordinance. I just also want to thank you, as Mary Helen did, for being willing to open it up to that ad committee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for meeting with all of us last week. I think it's really good for us to do a reset on this ordinance. And I want to also reiterate that I want a diverse ad hoc committee. I don't want it to just be people that are in the short-term rental business, but residents who have concerns, business owners, because we have a lot of business owners who benefit from our clients, and some of them would love to have them, as well as any staff. So again, thank you for being willing to set the reset button on this, and let's hope we can get something really good from the CIA. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walkinshaw. Any other comment this evening?
Hi, Mayor, trustees, Jimmy Nevadas III, from 5 Flowers to Go. I just wanted to thank the town, confusing sometimes. I just wanted to thank the town, thank Fire Chief Whitted for a successful display. Once again, I really felt like things went off very, very well. I didn't really see a whole lot of trouble like I have in the past around that area when we were lighting those fireworks and stuff. So I just want to thank everybody and thank Chief once again. And also, yes, his institution, the new permit structure definitely did help this year and made things a lot easier on us as vendors as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nevadas. Appreciate that. Any other public comment this evening? Seeing as there is none, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is a closed executive session for discussion of limited personnel matters pursuant to NMSA 1978, section 10-15-1H2 for open positions within the Marshals Department, open positions within the Public Works Department, open positions within the Finance Department, and open positions within Community and Economic Development. And with that, if I can have a motion to close our regular scheduled meeting and open our executive closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. And if there's no objection or comments, then we will be entering our executive closed session. The time is now 7:04. We are going into our executive closed session.
I survived it.
Yeah.
Take this just in case. Might as well.
I know, but I'll come tomorrow. And then I always finish when I. Is that? Yeah, the guys around. Yeah, like, because the guy comes up to me.
Yeah.
I want my.
I'll just kind of finish it and then when you're ready.
Yeah, I doubt her full out. You're leaving out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, there was a commercial.
Yeah, but we may, maybe use
He's there. Looks terrible. So, it's good. I put shoes in.
I always see this.
And then my brother's working on that building right here. And it's temporary. I had my daughter. So I was really tired of it. It was he sent me bought it after I brought him.
something like that. I know it's nice. And that I think was really show you want.
Right, so it's better to.
And then they were able
That was a great exercise. All the animals and all the properties, they had that we were.
And I guess I missed it. I mean, it was this.
Well, it was in that series.
Also, the dogs can jump. And I said, well, we'll try it. We'll just have to play them around. I was able
I figured it was just nutrition math.
And after you put the kids to bed together. There's a pool. Well, my neighbor, because every time he has a street,
Dehydration. Actually, I think that.
So you guys could go. Well, we can, no, I got it. Now, I'm talking. They're really not. So this one is really. And like, my grandmother's all over. I would have to get just a scratch, you know, a little bit. They're just yeah. They're rescue. So they have, and you made it pretty clear, wasn't it?
Maybe by then.
Is that why I way back when? My little rescue that I know, because I was saying, well, I don't understand the emotions of my first soul, like, when I entered the system, I know that. Before they land on, before we even knew that they were on. She must have been registered. That's why they're so we would have. I thought that we not talked way before, getting those emails about forums of like, oh, surprise, maybe it's well, the reason. The bees, like the buzz bee. There's so there's a gold piece that's in the museum. It's really spectacular. It's up to 1,000.
Fixed misfire, fixed CO2, and now he's at a whole 35. No.
Just
But then we can start to ask what they are on
Bill Melvin.
The new code's still.
And because now everybody, we all were under the impression he was listening.
When they were.
New Year's.
When they were.
Now they live there, I know they're.
It
Burns it.
And.
Under the current code, because now there's a brick and mortar business, so the current code says, unless there's a brick and mortar business.
But they can shoot off aerials and noises.
That's the way the current code is.
I still have got a lot of tranquilizers from. Oh. She evolved, works out, you know. But we don't really hear them unless it's New Year's or like. And that's why I was still sure that's why I thought it was higher. Maybe that it was temporary, like, but now that it's brick and mortar. I got these memories. And they were.
They don't sell a lot of that.
The doctor's rolls. Yeah. So they're
But
kind
you
of.
hear them go on, you know, during the year, and once the building was up, like, it's not high number.
And it wasn't so many years ago, there was an handicap person talking about it. No, they've already spent all this money. Yeah, we said, I remember.
My theory is it lasts longer.
But how would they do that?
$10 bills and work from one. Okay. Even better, convert it to pesos. You'd still be burning them.
Sure. Yeah, I had no idea.
I could never
Yeah,
see spending that much money on it.
Well, there's a number of things about that building, but when it went up, it blocked the view of the mountains. No, it was so sad.
But anything that would have gone there would have done the same thing. It could have been Casablanca, you know, any building that went there would have done it. That's not hard to work on the road all the time.
And you know, I was talking to Judy because I had a ton in first grade.
Yeah.
So, you know, I know it was always expensive.
And other things like, I know that the people that like the big metal box.
We always stop in Kansas, so was it? Yeah. In Missouri.
Hot dogs.
Okay,
Which
but
stops the
doesn't
sprinkler system from freezing that winter.
not crazy, but a couple hundred.
Okay, we can put it for a bureau permit.
Kind of painted, yeah. They do.
Right.
I think they need to.
From my son, Greg's. I think he's doing.
Because I'm Florida.
Well,
Yeah. Well, they said buy one, do.
I'm more of a side there.
You're right. When I get irrigation, I'll throw firework in it just for you. When I get irrigation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what I was saying is, owns that property, I thought it was.
So,
And he has two brothers.
Absolutely, we all have to.
depending on which way the wind blows, he either loves us or hates us, because
What's nice about.
Yeah.
I know how to do this. And he always tells us, he's moving.
I know, that's
They're taking
I
off.
tried.
You see his students like the door, he's in their bathroom. We'll take those over there.
Yeah, to this day
Well,
before
Ian,
yesterday, I was
I think they both agree on that.
Black dogs came.
That's them.
And I, I paid her really, and then I turned around and I said, oh.
It's best either way.
Yes, thanks, always.
Even if they did it as a donation.
Yeah. And see if her out.
Yeah, they're going.
Go to the bathroom and then I'll come out. Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Anything going down at the station right now?
It is American Day, I do. And
He's gonna be down at the station right now.
Never scheduled.
Well, they didn't come to your.
Two work sessions.
They didn't show up.
She's got, that's just.
So they,
So when it's
the
time.
engineers are pulled out until the gap, they don't know how to do it. They didn't know what did that.
Well, yeah, and then you come.
So they should have a wire on the top.
Door.
So he could help by starting the
That's
process,
right.
but that.
County commissioners, they recognize us with blue check wires.
Well, he owns
He owns, yeah.
He owns all of it.
With that.
Well, court, it's never been seen. but
I missed
his
seeing it
brother
today.
Doug lives right down the street.
again?
I bet his brother Doug
At
has
7:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
You hope that's.
foot is really wide. I think he works at the.
But that's busy as he was in my yard. I didn't have my
You
phone.
grew up with family.
You have it set
And
on
his mom.
Yeah, but I didn't have it on me.
It was beautiful. Because he's so washed out.
I physically didn't have it.
I know.
You know, he keeps selling, he keeps saying that.
Actually, it's funny, I just took it off. That's not very
So, you better squash. I can't see anything in the garden. Well, it was good.
So this one.
Yeah. I remember that.
I was surprised when it was on fire.
It stays off. It stays in the.
We're gonna have to, I think all next year,
I mean, it's not,
just
I
take it
don't know,
down.
it's done.
Because I think what I'll do is just do containers.
It should say school fireworks.
What kind of trees
Oh, what?
You guys got this in the morning.
Only the end of the fire, all the trees go into the garden.
Yeah, just in the morning.
Does it get hot?
Express a fireworks band.
That if you don't
They
get
were
rid of it,
really-
get rid of it.
It was helpful. I know.
We gotta pull it out, which would be a big job, we'll have to probably hire.
You're not.
No, you're
not saying, hey, people.
From what we got, you picked him up at,
You need to come forward and say,
Yeah.
Tennessee,
Every other year. Oh, we pick them up.
I don't know.
But he
And we're spending all this money watering it.
ran out.
But I gotta let it die.
Yeah, well, I believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on there. It's really, it reminds me of.
It only reminds me of
I don't think the town is.
Well, yeah. Usually that's that.
I think, yeah, it was right after.
You got the
I was
test?
helping him on
Keep this
Oh, that guy.
Well, I keep getting busy. Last week, I was 2 weeks.
Try to run into him when you see him.
I did get caught. So you need another.
Yeah, he's not-
Do you see-
I'm gonna-
I got probably 14 or 15.
Unless you give me a different time.
Yeah, I know.
It's a horrible time.
Yeah, Monday. That for me.
My brother got it.
That's why I.
Today is my maiden.
I'll tell her a little bit.
So I.
No.
He's tell me he's wanting some.
Oh, I thought that's.
So I.
Morning is hard. It really is.
Very seriously.
No.
If you could.
Well, yeah.
You were actually very
I'm
helpful.
trying.
I also want to make sure that you let her.
Or if we see him.
I bet something now on the front.
Well, there's nothing else going on.
So you should.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm gonna find out if they hire Ben or.
I wouldn't say fix him.
Oh,
Yeah. So no, we'll look.
But I'm telling you now that they're, so, I don't know. I mean, I haven't.
Motivated,
Mine's darker than yours.
Well, then it's, you're probably, yes, sure, absolutely.
I just saw him at basketball,
Yeah, then you got to go 2 years. He was just.
I thought it was.
Well,
He was.
My favorite is,
I don't know. I don't know. So if one of you is somebody here, you would. One of you is, you have a 2 year.
I'm using hot bottles and water.
Yeah.
It's a perfect size. It's a special one they use, it's, I don't know how they yeah.
She's an adult. I was doing her taxes. That would be a business race.
Oh,
Do our,
Especially like, you.
But I got
like,
it.
Sometimes, I mean, that
So
was.
they just have no idea.
Sometimes somebody wants to say, oh,
Or they think of the hair on rosters. Well,
they're saying, oh, my grandpa and my grandpa was happy and
I would assume that you have
that stuff. So, I mean,
and then by the time it's done, I always have it back into, because one of you will be up or the other. I really have to read it.
Go back on.
Yeah, he's got people. They took it back, so that makes sense.
Interesting. It's also supporting
Yes, he texted how what to get.
He's sitting in class.
It's rather daunting.
Well, they're like,
You have to read. I'll read it.
They said that Beto put together a training.
But I mentioned to you today.
Well, and the other.
Because we have a great work on it, how you say about really little friends and descriptions of our house on
You guys should walk.
and they were all like it was just the stuff.
I'm gonna make you do this.
Because I saw him today, he was wearing.
It's also mad about
The old school.
I've seen this on top of this. They've been rovers a lot. They're saying that. Everybody's there had me talk, they're saying it happened. Somebody, and then you back out every time. And then the next academy's gonna be talking to them, just graduated. You saw it. Until they almost kill somebody and then they're back on again. You just put a plan in place. If one of those instructors comes in the second or seventh time, then you write.
That's what I'm saying, like,
Well, you did them. You.
I actually.
I wasn't, don't do anything. They just make you fun. They don't want to. Right? Like, you want running to be done?
Yeah.
Go run for lunch. That's what you want to do. You're doing today's their presentation. Tomorrow, they haven't done that. It's just, you do, mine, I could do it. Monday, hard, weight,
I mean,
type stuff on Tuesday.
I mean, like this year,
Weight stuff, long run, weekend, or do run, you know.
Or do like a team building, run, exercise thing, swimming.
Structure, you're not looking at the same thing. Like, you need to run. Keep going.
See, that's how it's that's the plan.
It may be now.
So right now, it's the summer, so and then.
So it's gonna start with surgery.
Take physical fitness thing. They weren't ready for it. They were, you know.
She would be awesome. But he would probably want it. He's shit right now. He's working.
Richard. Like this whole time, he's lost 100 pounds.
For me, I mean, I mental health.
Right
I
now.
actually just came.
Well, there could be one of the most important things to happen. See what's it was the current inventory. Very old, and the quality, the condition of a lot of things. Either worse or better than the army.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to get pushed for that. It's hard to get. And there's funding out there for it. You have somebody, that's one of the things that they
Feeling
do.
better
is
rather
work
than
probably
feeling
with
like
Russell
shit.
Real
You know,
It's just, I think,
That's
It's nice because she blessed.
Okay, well, thank you guys. Well, there's a lot of money out there.
Oh, really? It's okay to talk to yourself.
Is the city? I go to the doctor. What's the city? What is it called? So I don't know about those. They're national. They're back here. So they administered it out in the states. You know, they haven't been created on the come in. One time I was watching, down. But it was something else. Next to and I was back to drove up with his truck, was coming to the stop sign. And I saw his truck just like this. Well, see, I mean, that's such a lot of discussions. And he saw him and he was taking off his belt because he was going to and the guy came out at the end. Yeah, they had. But in the other day. And all of a sudden, texting somebody something, I don't know, Charles Joe, I have to get on the floor. They're talking about soda, and I was having a they're singing.
I know, I saw it, yeah.
So, you know, it's nice to see you. I'm going out shopping for No, I was, and I'm just. But when I, left it up,
That's what I
So carry it around.
Right.
And then I was heading, and I ended up where county as I was sitting. No, there we go. Working my garage, and then I forgot. And then I had to go hurt that he's calling me. He's next door, so I was like, they were probably calling us. And I'm just looking as I was.
Five.
For daughter. It is. Yeah. Because he talked with them, I always just, because he
So I can't do this on my phone, copy and paste this in Word document, and then address each one, and then send it back to her.
Like she did.
Did you?
Sweetest, but.
I'll get it to it eventually. It's gonna be there, I'm not in any hurry.
This stuff, it's right on that. Kind of.
It was super lightweight material.
By the way, once again, you asked earlier that truck driver. I was going to the coming up barriers, I mean, it was right.
And that slide.
It was just barely.
was.
I was very surprised.
And so there's a guy on Facebook right now that's selling.
I was even thinking about this, it's like, well, maybe we should take this big one off, put it on the trailer, put the little one on there.
That one uses the diesel. But there's a guy that's selling the billboards, you take them down, you take them to tarps, so you can tarps.
Your dog. I haven't seen your dog.
Can you find that again, can you send it to me, because I could use some right
He's
now.
got 10.
Yeah, don't look like that.
12 by 16. But we could make his bed coverage truck. So the tools always been there. Doesn't need to be anything fancy.
We can get just.
But it was on for a while.
And so I think that's fine there. And I say we have covered old generator, remember we sat that piece of that plate.
So I thought it
We
was
put
safe.
that in like a tailgate to protect what's over the back of that.
I bent up my newer trailer today. Something a little bit.
Kurt wants to borrow his of those.
Oh, the one that.
Yeah, because you say he's.
Yeah.
Dumpster. No, why are we running dumpster?
Exactly.
For where? I gotta have a garage sale or do something, I got one more storage.
I've already been through this.
Yeah, I need to
Stuff I
get
get
rid
rid
of
of,
this.
my mom's from like.
I know.
To restore or whatever, and say, good luck with this stuff, guys.
Winds.
It's all supposed to rain today. Did I tell her to clean out stuff? There's a lot of stuff.
Did they?
Okay, yeah.
No.
Give this away to somebody who wants it. Take it, sell it, you don't care, you
And
know.
that place
There's a lot of that stuff, you know, it's covered.
I know.
If you want it, if you want something for a garage sale,
Those
send it to you, or you can garage sale it and be done with it.
Yeah, right.
Or
Every time
Maria.
I find something.
Maria.
Marta. Sorry. Yeah, remember Maria? I had Maria.
Oh, really?
Have you talked to her in a long time?
I can still hear Sissy barking.
I know when you said that.
Oh.
She was so
Oh, you're
funny. I
gonna
missed
get on it?
that. He was, oh, because there's.
Under those cases.
So how did this, you think this might
Okay,
be
so
parcel?
let's give it a bunch.
Uh,
Got the ordinance in the back.
I'm surprised. I'm very excited that there's a lot more
Have you picked it up? Yeah. Where do you have it?
simplicity and people are happy. The only people are
Right now
not
it's in the
happy
dining
are.
room, right? Where Carolyn brought into
Yeah,
the
there.
living room.
That's my
It's not.
Well, I think probably the separate form for separate.
You know what?
They need to be.
There is a lot. I'm here, so I remember my song, like everybody.
Yeah, I wondered how much
It's maybe a hundred and a half. That's great. Well, you know what?
That's why I didn't listen much.
That was a lot.
So let me tell you, Russell can show you the Facebook post from somebody who lives over there.
Oh, right.
She attacked him.
Yeah.
Trees are.
Nothing last weekend. I was just like, I've been really good with money since I got back from vacation.
And she was talking about it. He was reading to the.
That's too
She's
strong.
You know, when she's saying, oh, he's not.
Yeah, exactly.
When it is covered in dust.
Still have
It's selling.
It's a coke machine. And the coke machine in the front has everything.
You think so?
Yeah.
Let's go buy a Coke.
We saw
It's not
Councilman
plugged in.
Trustee Merrick walking down this week.
It's the same.
She just went to the bathroom.
There's no way.
You're my idea then.
Chris Alexander. He's not selling chilies. You walk in there, have you ever been in there? Everything is covered in dust. It's not shit. Did have something that was worth on it, didn't buy it because it's covered in dust.
It's crazy, yeah.
And it's covered, how does he keep it? What's he selling? Yeah, one day I wanted to score.
I saw him on a game that day, coming back.
But yeah, so she was,
I tried.
Aaron, where did you get this?
Click of alarm.
Right. That would be, yes.
It's still going.
This is yes.
All right.
I have another one of these.
Another key.
That one's big, that's got this thing.
And then approve it. If you wouldn't mind. Huh? Oh my goodness. All right, the time is now 7:38, and we are coming out of our closed executive session with only those items being discussed, the limited personnel matters for the Marshals Department, Public Works Department, Finance Department, and Community Economic Development Department. With that in mind, if I can have a motion to exit closed executive session to re-enter our regular scheduled meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Nevades. And if there is no discussion or objection, we will exit executive closed session and re-enter our regular scheduled meeting. The time is now 7:39 and we're back into our regular scheduled meeting. Next item on the agenda is approval of any actions that may arise out of a result of discussion in closed session. So we'll start off with the Marshals Department. I'd like to see if I can get a motion to approve the appointment of Ben Escarte to the position of Town Marshal.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Trustee Cadena, seconded by Trustee Nevades. I will open it up for discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be abstaining from the vote.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Is there any other discussion? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burr?
Yes.
Trustee Nevades?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call to 3 yeses.
Very good. Thank you very much for the appointment of Marshal Escarte. Congratulations.
Good job.
The next appointment that we have is for Lieutenant Diaz to be promoted into the specific position. If I can have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena. I will open it up for discussion, if any. Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick?
Yes.
Trustee Nevades?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burr?
Yes.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Great. Thank you very much for the promotion of Sergeant Diaz presently, who's been acting lieutenant, to the Lieutenant Diaz, or lieutenant position. Sorry, I was going to say the Lieutenant Diaz position. That might be interesting. Hasn't been a long day. Next request is continuing in the Marshals Department, just with the change in the structure of the department as a whole. I'd like to make the request for Deputy Hernandez, who is presently at Deputy 2. She'll be maintaining Deputy 2, but receiving the pay grade that's associated with that. Can have a motion on the floor, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena. Is there any discussion? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Nevades?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burr?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick?
Yes.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Great, thank you very much for that, Deputy Hernandez, in this new Deputy 2 position. Next, I have in Deputy 2 as well as Deputy Nanez. And Deputy Nanez will meets the requirements of Deputy 2. However, his pay grade will be that of what his current pay is plus the increase as it's been noted within our preliminary budget. If I can have a motion on the floor, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Nevadas. I'll open it up for any discussion. Any? Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Johnson Burek?
Yes.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick?
Yes.
Trustee Nevares?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Thank you very much for that promotion for Deputy Nanez for Deputy 2, as it's been said. Next up is Deputy Reyes, who is presently a Deputy 1, but meets the requirements of our Deputy 2, but meets the requirements of our Deputy 3 job description. So I would like to have the request to move him into Deputy 3.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena. Any discussion? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick?
Yes.
Trustee Nevares?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek?
Yes.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Thank you for your promotion of Deputy Reyes into this position. Next up, we have Deputy Baca, who is presently a Deputy 2, given our previous job descriptions, but doesn't meet the requirements of Deputy 2. So he would be going down to Deputy 1, but he does maintain his current pay rate plus the noted increase as it was in our preliminary budget.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena. Any discussion? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Trustee Nevares?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is C. Johnson Burek?
Yes.
Trustee Nevares?
Yes.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Great, thank you very much for the promotion of Lorinda to that director position. Next, we have our Public Works Team Lead position, who is Manny's our current team lead in there, Manny Hernandez. My recommendation for team lead. If I can have a motion on the floor, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena. Any discussion? Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Trustee Nevares?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek?
Yes.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Great, thank you very much for the promotion of Manny into that team lead position for the Public Works Department. Next, we have in our Public Works Department, just clarification there again of a specific job description. This is for Ms. Dorothy Villa. This is our custodian position in specific. It doesn't maintain the current pay grade and her current pay rate with the proposed increase as it was done through the preliminary budget. If I can have a motion on the floor, please. Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena. Any discussion? Gloria, roll call vote if you would, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick?
Yes.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek?
Yes.
Trustee Nevares?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Great, thank you very much. Next, we're moving into Finance Department and looking at that. I do have the Deputy Treasurer and Deputy Clerk that have now been split. And so my first recommendation is for Ashley to move into that Deputy Treasurer position. If I can have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena. Is there any discussion or question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just again, I have concerns with the job description we just approved and the roles and responsibilities and tasks associated with this position and what it calls for. such as financial analysis, variance reports, knowledge of tax laws, accounting principles, and ensuring compliance with all federal, state, and local laws, and a multitude of other tasks that, those are my concerns. Thank you.
Is there any other questions or discussion here? Seeing as there is none, Gloria, if you would roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
Trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
No.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 3 yeses and 1 no.
Thank you very much for the promotion of Ashley into this deputy treasurer position. Next up, I have the deputy clerk position, moving Brianna into that position fully.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena, I'll open it up for any discussion. If I can have a roll call vote, please, Gloria.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yeses.
Great, thank you very much for the promotion of all these individuals within our current departments. And again, thank you for the job description as we move forward into our new deal.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I forgot to make a comment, if I may, in regards to the hiring of the deputy treasurer. The other concern I had was that I feel that some of these job duties were overlapping with the town clerk treasurer, so that was my other rationale and my other concerns with approving that position. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Trustee Johnson Burek. I do have that noted as well. We will definitely look into all of that. Next up is Board of Trustee Committee reports. We'll start with Trustee Nevares. Trustee Johnson Burek.
None?
Trustee Cadena? Nothing? Don't we have something coming up? The Chiefs, through the COG, I had that meeting. And let me go through my calendar. I can't even remember the meetings that I've been in. So many of them lately. And then, but that was a great one that we elected new people into that. That was the one for Department of Workforce Solutions, so on and so forth. And I know there was another one that I went to. I can't, like I say, I can't. I know it. Yeah, I can't keep track of them anymore. So with that, I'll move past committee reports and let's go to Board of Trustee staff comments. I'll open it up for Mr. Marshall.
Official Marshall.
I want to thank you for the appointment. Want to keep leading the department in the right direction and the way the town is growing and what you guys' wants and needs are. I appreciate the appointment of Lieutenant he is now. He really stepped up as sergeant, handled a lot of stuff for me in between all my meetings and everything else I was dealing with. Deputy 3 Reyes deserves it with his years of experience. He'll be a great asset. Good person to look up to for the younger deputies. Same thing with Deputy Hernandez. She's grown in her 3 years here. Deputy 2 Nunez has really grown. Can't wait to see what they do in the future and as they move up. And Deputy 1 Baca is a little go-getter, keeping the streets safe on graveyards. I wish, back to what you had said about the ACO codes, I wish we could use our farm team of the interns because they've worked out the last 3. On that note, I just had a former intern get accepted into the State Police Academy. He should be starting here soon. I just had another former one graduate from Colorado State Trooper Academy, and today was her first day on the street.
Wow.
So that adds to the rank of, I think we have 6 now that have gone into law enforcement career. 4th of July, there was no issues. I think we only had 1 issue on a firework complaint over here off of Bouts because the way the angle was shooting, it was almost hitting cars in the high school. Acting Sergeant Hernandez and ACO codes, Jose Garcia went over there. They were able to show the permit. They explained what the issue was. No other issues on our end. I want to say sorry for ACO codes Garcia's debut in the hot dog eating contest. We'll work on that. A little disappointed in how much he ate. Yeah, 2.5 hot dogs. I don't think there was any issues with traffic. I think the fireworks show went good. There was no really other issues. El Patio was closed, so that was Good. The switch over to the new 700 radio system got postponed until July 22nd. Merv is just going over everything and dotting i's, crossing t's to make sure it works for when they do debut it. So we'll hold off on that. We did get our 10 handhelds, they're ready to go. So what else? Made the appointment to get the new Durangos outfitted. Unfortunately, MHQ's looking at 3 to 4 months out to start a new build. But they do have graphics. We got those put on. I'm the only one currently using one just because it's not patrol ready. I gave up my old Durango to Deputy 3 Reyes so we can have it on graveyards, which would better suit the department in the town. So again, thank you. I appreciate it. I hope I keep leading the department in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall. Fire chief.
Thank you. I think I've talked enough for today. A lot of good things are going on. We just got the new structural firefighting gear. It's a whole new vendor, different type of gear, and it's much better. I meant to bring some in before it gets dirty, and I can't bring it in, so ended up going. So other than that, fireworks, 4th of July was a better. The last two have been going very well. I think some of it is our messaging. We've been sending out messages on Facebook and getting some shares that way, and the chasing around of illegal fireworks was a lot less this year than it has been. So, yes. Oh yeah.
No, I have a question. How is the Mesilla Community Connect project going?
We still have about 10 on there. I don't see any of the board members on. I'd be happy to help you. It's another technology. There's a lot of good things that go on that. For instance, we can send the messages out when a change happens to fireworks ordinance, people that are in that connect thing, but being able to help people when they need it without having to worry about breaking in doors, or they have a key, or they have code, or that's really good. So far, we're still trying to get the message out, and I think it's gonna take a little while for people to get comfortable. We're not really sure that, how much, what we're gonna do with it. I'm not selling it to Facebook, I'm not selling it to Amazon or anything like that. It's gonna be a good thing. So anybody have questions, we're happy to help you with that. Anything else?
Thank you, Chief. Finance. I really highly doubt that, but every time. All right. Trustee Nevadas. Trustee Johnson Beer.
Just thank you and Eddie and Coates for addressing that issue with the signs that weren't approved on the former Vintage Winery in Rincon. Again, as I mentioned to you, I was very upset because, they're bolted into that adobe. So I appreciate you looking into that. And then Jimmy Nevadas is gone, but wanted to thank him for another wonderful firework display that they did and put on for the town. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Galena.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you and the staff for all the work that you've put into getting the personnel up to the place we need them to run more efficiently in town. And the fireworks display was really good, felt really safe. I thought there was a lot of people that came to Mesilla versus dealing with traffic and so on and so forth. I mean, I hope it went as well as I felt like it did. And the fireworks were really nice. Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Just also thank you to Dorothy for organizing all of that on the 4th of July, the hot dog eating contest, the vendors, and getting all that done. But other than that, no.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And, well, the codes officer, he tried, but there was little kids sitting next to him, so he couldn't like try to show up the little kids to his defense, so I'd have to throw that out there.
And to be fair, we fed him before the hot dog.
Okay, so he had priority, okay.
Yeah.
But it was a great celebration. I do want to note that, the Las Cruces show, you could see from at least where I was watching it, that was good, but it only lasted 15 minutes. Ours lasted over 30 minutes, because I sat there going, oh, it's still going, so it's a good thing at the end of the day, so I do have, or want to put out a reminder that I did send out an email to the board earlier about the stuff going on with Municipal League. So if you're interested in newly elected training, as well as Molly level 2, you do have to have the Molly level 1, and then also keeping in mind that the other main event that they do, that the Municipal League puts on, is in Clovis this year in August. So if you're interested in going to that, please make sure you let us know, especially that one in August, because Clovis is a smaller town, and there's not very many hotels and hotel rooms, especially those that honor the government rate. So we need to make sure we get everybody in accordingly. So if you can let myself or Lori know if you do plan on attending that way we can book rooms accordingly for that, and travel and expense. All right, and then they got a couple. There's a Taylor meeting that's coming up tomorrow here at Town Hall. So looking forward to that.
13 to 15 people, so
Okay.
we need to know.
Well, are we going to be here or there? We'll figure it out. It'll be good. But other than that, I don't have anything else other than the team's working hard and we're making some good strides, and hopefully I'll have some updates on some grants here by the next meeting, and I'm excited for that. So with that, if there is no objection, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. We can just end it in the stream. Everybody.
The volunteer program.